This guy is hiding in ambush with his bow as a whole squad of knights passes right by him. Any other archer wouldn't stand a chance in a fair fight against all those armored knights. But he calmly counts his arrows and his targets, then launches his attack. At first one knight falls, then a second. By the time they realize what's happening and where the arrows are coming from, a third of the squad is already dead. Yu Sang-hyun lands headshot after headshot with deadly accuracy. He shoots so fast they don't even have time to reach him. This continues until only one knight remains from the entire squad. He tries to escape, but our guy takes careful aim and finishes him off as well. After all, no one in this medieval world stands a chance against Yu Sang-hyun, who used to be a champion in modern archery. Here's how his story started. This is the third set of the national championship, and the stadium is packed. All eyes are on the youngest participant, Yu Sang-hyun. He has one arrow left, and so far every single shot he's made has been a perfect 10. He takes a deep breath, steadies himself, and releases the arrow. It flies straight into the bullseye and splits the arrow already stuck there. With that insane shot, he wins the championship, becoming the youngest national winner, but that moment is long gone. 10 years later, Sang-hyun is stuck in an office, getting yelled at by his boss for being distracted. His hands tremble as he quietly apologizes, and his boss sees him as nothing more than a useless hire. That night, Sang-hyun sits alone in his dark room, watching footage of his old victory. Archery used to be everything to him. He worked insanely hard to earn a scholarship while living with his grandmother. He believed he had a future, until a car accident destroyed it all. Now, he's just surviving thanks to a job his former coach helped him get. To distract himself, he opens a streaming site where people play games using full dive capsules, machines so expensive he can't even dream of owning one. He watches a streamer completely fail at using a bow, yet still pull huge views. The next day, things get worse. His boss hands him a resignation letter. The company is restructuring, and he's basically being forced out. With no real options, Sang-hyun accepts it. At 28 years old, he's left with nothing. But then, while lying in bed, he gets an idea. In the virtual world, anything is possible. Maybe he can use a bow again. He starts researching streaming and realizes something. People don't just watch for entertainment. They respect real skill and growth. And for the first time in years, he feels something familiar. A fair world. One where effort actually matters. So he decides to take the leap. Sang-hyun tells his friend Joo-hyuk about his plan, and the guy is completely shocked. He can't believe Sang-hyun wants to spend all his savings on a gaming capsule, especially when he's never even played a game before. He reminds him of the accident, of everything he lost. But Sang-hyun doesn't back down. Even when Joo-hyuk breaks down the insane costs, showing it could go up to 40 million won, Sang-hyun is still determined. Seeing this, Joo-hyuk takes him to a capsule rental place instead. There, they meet the owner, Kang-suk, who sets up a test archery simulation for Sang-hyun. Inside the capsule, Sang-hyun suddenly finds himself in a massive stadium. It feels completely real. But the moment he holds the bow, his hands start shaking. The trauma is still there. For a second, it looks like he can't do it. But then, he takes a deep breath, and the shaking stops. He pulls the string and fires. Bullseye. Then again, and again. Every single arrow lands perfectly in the center. Outside, Kang-suk and Joo-hyuk watch in total shock. This isn't just someone learning a game. This is pure skill. When the test ends, Sang-hyun is completely exhausted, but the result is clear. He still got it. Memories start hitting him again. The accident, the hospital, the moment he lost everything. It still hurts like it just happened. But this time, something is different. He's holding a bow again. Even if it's virtual, it feels real. After getting a good deal on a capsule, Sang-hyun finally sets everything up at home. Now, he's ready to start streaming. Instead of choosing popular games, he goes for something smarter. A hardcore medieval game called Kingdom Age, known for being extremely difficult. He creates his character, and just like that, his new life begins. The full dive begins with a flash of light. Instead of a peaceful start, our guy is jolted awake by a stinging slap to the face. He finds himself lying upside down in a wooden cart filled with boxes, sporting a red mark on his cheek. As he sits up and peeks out, he sees a chaotic battle unfolding in a nearby village. A gray-haired mercenary captain named Roman looms over him, screaming at the rookie to snap out of it and grab a weapon because bandits are attacking. A digital menu appears with options for a spear or a sword, but Sang-hyun searches until he finds the bow listed at the bottom. This choice immediately catches the attention of 5 viewers who have already tuned in. They warn him that using a bow is a massive challenge because the game simulates realistic armor physics and limited arrow counts. Despite the chat calling it a spicy challenge, our boy locks in his choice. Suddenly, a bow and 20 arrows fall directly from the sky and land beside him with. The viewers laugh at the newbie's startled reaction, but the mood changes when Sang-hyun actually picks up the weapon. Even Roman mocks him, claiming he won't hit a single target with his pathetic mindset. Our hero ignores the noise and focuses his intense gaze on the field. He draws back and fires, landing a perfect headshot on a hooded bandit. As the viewers cheer at his beginner's luck, Sang-hyun realizes the mechanics feel surprisingly familiar, resting somewhere between the professional archery of his past and the simulations he's recently practiced. When a viewer named Ruby Sword explains that the game uses realistic organ locations for its headshot mechanic, Sang-hyun calmly decides to take the enemies out one by one. The chat is filled with laughter at his confidence, but our protagonist stays silent to let his results do the talking. With golden eyes, he begins firing arrows that seem to pulse with blue light. Because he has exactly 20 arrows for 20 bandits, he treats every shot as a necessity. The battlefield clears quickly as our hero picks off targets from behind a wooden fence. He eventually notices a large shield bearer charging at Roman, creating a difficult situation since the enemy is well protected. However, Sang-hyun spots a tiny opening on the side. He knocks an arrow and fires a shot that curves slightly, piercing the bandit's temple through the gap in his helmet. As the battle ends, Sang-hyun is confused to see the chat has completely stopped. He worries that his performance was boring, but seconds later, the screen explodes with frantic messages. The viewers are stunned because he didn't just clear the field. He managed to kill a boss that is normally impossible for a beginner to hit. When the chat asks how he managed to maintain his aim while drawing the bow back all the way, Sang-hyun looks genuinely confused, as he doesn't find full draw aiming difficult at all. Roman walks up to the rookie, looking deeply impressed by that final arrow. This incredible display of skill quickly spreads to web communities, where people begin sharing clips of the strange new streamer who is melting the heart of the usually grumpy Captain Roman. At the end of the video, when Roman asks for his name so he can report his bravery to the higher-ups, our boy turns to the camera with a smile. He introduces himself as Almond, a name that soon fills the search bars of the gaming community. The Kingdom Age community had become a stagnant pond where the same old topics were recycled by the same regulars. Because the game itself lacked updates, the forums felt like a boring echo chamber until a single post titled, "A Total Newbie Getting Praised by Roman," changed everything. The post included a video of the mercenary captain actually smiling, which immediately sparked a heated debate among the users. Most people assumed it was clickbait because Roman is notoriously grumpy, but the footage clearly showed a player killing a boss in one shot and then just running away. The community was torn between disbelief and suspicion. Some commenters suggested this was actually a seasoned pro doing a bow challenge on an alt account. However, others quickly pointed out that creating an alt account in a capsule is nearly impossible since the hardware requires iris and fingerprint scans. When the original poster mentioned that the streamer was using an auto-generated name, it became clear that this was a genuine rookie. In his room, Yoo Sang-hyun is stunned as he reads through these posts. He never expected his first broadcast to cause such a stir, especially seeing himself compared to a legendary streamer named Electron. Because Electron is a former pro gamer who famously struggled with the game's bow mechanics, the fact that a newcomer like Sang-hyun succeeded where a pro failed creates immense buzz. Some viewers even worry that the pressure of these comparisons might make our boy quit. Instead of being intimidated, Sang-hyun feels his heart racing with a competitive spark he hasn't felt in years. He realizes that the attention and feedback are giving him a massive surge of energy. The next morning, his friend Joo-hyuk calls from a busy corporate cafeteria to check on him. When Sang-hyun casually mentions that he ended his first night with 20 viewers, Joo-hyuk is so shocked that he jumps out of his chair and disrupts the entire room. After apologizing to his coworkers, Joo-hyuk whispers in disbelief, wondering how a first-timer could attract that much interest. Sang-hyun simply attributes it to picking a good game, though Joo-hyuk knows it's pure talent. Their conversation is cut short when an angry manager begins screaming at Joo-hyuk for being distracted, which only reinforces Sang-hyun's resolve to make his new career work. Because he is now fully committed, our protagonist decides to skip a proper meal and get straight back into the capsule. He views this as his actual job now, so he doesn't want to waste a single minute. As he climbs into the device, his stomach growls, but his mind is focused on the growing audience. When the stream officially starts, he is floored to see 189 people already waiting. His viewership has jumped ninefold in a single day because of the community thread. The rapid pace of the chat and the sheer number of eyes on him make Sang-hyun's hands clench in a brief moment of nerves. To center himself, he uses a mental trick from his days as an athlete, imagining he is viewing the world in the third person to distance himself from the pressure. This allows his anxiety to disappear like magic, replaced by a confident smile as he addresses his fans. He settles into the interface, ready to show the audience a masterpiece performance. While Sang-hyun dives back into the game, Joo-hyuk is back at his desk feeling exhausted by his own office politics. He suddenly realizes he forgot to deliver a vital message from Kang-suk, the capsule owner. Kang-suk had specifically mentioned something important regarding body optimization that Sang-hyun needed to know. Unfortunately, Joo-hyuk is pulled away for another meeting before he can explain the details. This leaves our hero locked inside the capsule, completely unaware of the technical warning as he begins his second day of streaming. Before going to sleep, Sang-hyun spends his night doing some serious research on the web to prepare for his new career. He focuses on how popular streamers manage their audiences and studies controversial cases to learn what to avoid. He discovers several common taboos, such as how mentioning your viewer count can actually disrupt audience engagement. He also learns the importance of establishing a friendly rivalry and making the stream feel intimate. almost like someone is just watching a friend play a game. Inside his capsule for the second day of streaming, our boy feels a lot more prepared. He looks at his viewer list and recognizes names from the previous day like Ruby Sword, Eggplant, and Mr. Dummy. Because he wants to build that intimacy he read about, he smiles and thanks them for coming back. This small gesture causes the chat to explode with excitement, and some viewers even start calling him a streaming genius for having dedicated fans so early. While he finds the genius label a bit overwhelming, he decides it is time to hop into the game. The transition begins with a flash of light as the system initiates the full dive. When Sang-hyun's eyes snap open, he finds himself already seated on a brown horse in the middle of a lush green world. This is a bit of a surprise because the game starts him right in the middle of the action. Since he stayed on for a bit after his last stream ended, he had Roman introduce him to the mercenary leader, which resulted in a new mission. He takes a moment to explain the situation to his 189 viewers, noting that he is currently acting as a bodyguard for a traveling noble. Even though it feels more like a chore than a war, he accepts the mission and prepares for the ride. The realism of the game continues to impress him, and he remarks that it truly feels like he is riding a horse. When Roman pulls up beside him and asks if it is his first time, Sang-hyun responds naturally, almost as if the game is pulling the words out of him. Surprisingly, the usually grumpy Roman laughs heartily and tells him he will be doing plenty of riding in the future. This kind behavior confuses the veteran viewers in the chat because they have never seen Roman act so friendly toward a player. They start jokingly asking what Almond did to the captain to change his personality so drastically. The peaceful travel is short-lived because viewers in the chat begin predicting an ambush by horseback bandits. Just as the warnings appear, a group of raiders emerges from the forest led by a red-haired leader with a manic grin. Roman bellows for his mercenaries to strike, but the front line is breached almost immediately. As a mercenary falls to a bandit's blade, the situation looks dire. While the chat is laughing and mocking the difficulty of the quest, Sang-hyun remains calm. He knows that in the sports world, people always doubt you until you prove them wrong. Our hero draws an arrow from his quiver and notes that there are about 50 enemies moving at high speeds. He decides that the best way to handle the situation is to let the outcome speak for itself. He sights his target, pulls the string back with a steady hand, and aims for the bandits at the front. With a sharp release, the arrow flies across the battlefield and strikes the bandit leader dead center in the forehead. The impact is so sudden that Roman and the other mercenaries stop in their tracks, staring in total shock as the bandit boss falls into the dirt. The chat is stunned into a brief silence before exploding with disbelief. Many viewers argue that it is impossible to even see the enemies from that distance, let alone land a kill shot. Sang-hyun is a bit confused by their frantic reaction, as he simply targeted the person at the front who happened to be the captain. Despite the chaos in the chat, our boy doesn't lose his focus. He observes that the battle isn't over and begins knocking more arrows. He moves from one target to the next, systematically picking off the bandits. Every time he fires, another enemy falls, causing the remaining raiders to panic and retreat. When they try to run, Sang-hyun refuses to let them escape. He draws his bow to its absolute limit, offers a brief apology, and fires a final shot that seals the encounter. This incredible performance quickly catches the attention of the wider Kingdom Age community. A popular streamer named Acorn Jelly is browsing the forums when he sees a post about a rookie killing a boss in one shot. Initially, he mocks the idea, assuming any streamer using a bow must be a pervert, looking for a useless challenge. However, when he actually watches the footage, his smug attitude disappears. He notices that the bandits didn't just die, they were killed instantly by shots that bypassed the game's usual survival mechanics. As his hand begins to tremble, Acorn Jelly realizes he is looking at a perfect shot, a level of skill that is almost unheard of in the game. In this game, enemies usually die instantly if you hit a critical point, but that rule doesn't apply to boss-level monsters. However, a hidden system exists where a perfect shot can bypass these limitations and even surpass the accuracy of a standard headshot. Because the activation conditions are so insane, requiring a precise hit on a vital spot within 1.5 seconds of an ambush, most veterans don't even believe it exists. Seeing a newcomer not only trigger this but seemingly make it his default style leaves Acorn Jelly wondering if he's watching a hacker or a literal Olympic medalist. The narrative shifts back to the game world where our boy is riding a horse at full gallop, pursued by a group of hostile mercenaries. Captain Roman rides alongside him and suggests that using a spear or a bat would be more practical, as shooting an arrow from a moving horse is notoriously difficult. The stream chat agrees, noting that horseback archery is a nightmare for most players. Despite the logical advice, Almond remains calm and insists on using his bow because it's what he's comfortable with. This dedication surprisingly moves the grumpy Roman, who suddenly becomes overly supportive, much to the amusement of the viewers who joke about the captain's blatant favoritism. As the chase intensifies, our protagonist realizes this is his first time dealing with a moving target while also managing the rhythm of a horse. Because of the pressure, his old trauma resurfaces and his hands begin to tremble violently. He knows he can't give up now, so he focuses on matching his body's movement to the horse's gallop. Once he finds the right flow, he releases his arrow that pierces a bandit's neck. Although he was aiming for the head, the kill is still successful, sending the chat into a frenzy. He leans forward, pushing himself to be faster and sharper, and begins landing consecutive headshots that send bandits tumbling from their saddles one by one. By the time the dust settles, the entire enemy group has been wiped out. Roman is genuinely stunned by the display, giving our hero an enthusiastic thumbs up and calling him a god-given archer. The other mercenaries join in the praise, comparing him to a modern-day Robin Hood. Amidst this celebration, a massive notification flashes on the screen. Acorn Jelly has donated 100,000 won, asking if the perfect shots he just saw were actually real. Because this is the first time Almond has ever received such a large gift, he becomes visibly flustered. The viewers start demanding a reaction for the donation, suggesting he do something related to his archery. Trying to be helpful, our guy decides to fire an arrow straight up into the clouds as a celebratory salute. He looks at the camera and says "Tada," just as the arrow disappears into the blue. Unfortunately, this sudden action combined with his outdated equipment causes a critical error. The screen flashes red with a game over message and then goes completely black. In a hilarious twist, the viewers assume this was a planned, high-level comedic exit. The post-stream chat explodes with laughter, with people calling him a legend who literally dies for his fans' donations. Back in his room, Sang-hyun sits in his capsule, exhausted and dripping with sweat. He initially worries that his old machine just gave up on him, but when he checks his phone, he sees the broadcast ended on a high note. Because the community thinks the sudden suicide shot was a genius move, his popularity is actually growing. He reflects on how his athletic background helped him adjust the trajectory, even if he doesn't feel the need to explain the technical details to his audience. While cooling off in his kitchen, he decides to look up Acorn Jelly and is impressed by the veteran's skill. His admiration is interrupted by a sudden ping from the streaming app. To his total surprise, Acorn Jelly has sent him a direct message, formally introducing himself to the rookie sensation. Acorn Jelly is far more than a simple gamer. He is a massive industry all-rounder with nearly 1 million subscribers and hundreds of videos. Because Sang-hyun eventually wants to reach that same commercial success, he studies the veteran's profile with deep interest. A sudden message from the star streamer creates a dilemma for our hero. In the message, Acorn Jelly confesses he is captivated by Almond's gameplay and jokingly clarifies his orientation before proposing a collaboration. He suggests they could share tips or create a reaction video, offering a low-pressure way to connect. Sang-hyun feels conflicted because while he knows this partnership would be a massive career boost, he worries about appearing like he is merely riding the coattails of a celebrity. The situation becomes even more complicated because Sang-hyun realizes he has no one in his life to consult about professional streaming politics. Just as he feels most isolated, his phone vibrates with an incoming call from Joo-hyuk. His friend is calling from a park bench, sounding surprisingly upbeat despite the box of office belongings sitting next to him. Joo-hyuk reveals that he has officially resigned from his company after a final explosive confrontation with a manager named Park. While Sang-hyun is initially horrified by the news, Joo-hyuk explains that watching our boy return to archery, even in a virtual world, made him realize he wanted to find something he truly cares about too. Because of this shared turning point, Joo-hyuk makes a bold declaration that he will now serve as Almond's manager. He brushes off Sang-hyun's concerns about pay or the loss of a big corporation career, insisting that a year-long break is fine and that they can land a great contract if they work together. Joo-hyuk is instantly energized by the news of the collaboration proposal, viewing it as the perfect opportunity to showcase his management skills. He tells Sang-hyun to leave the networking and logistics to him, promising to handle everything so our hero can simply focus on showing off his incredible skill. The narrative shifts to a modern cafe where the meeting with Acorn Jelly's team takes place. A manager named Naeon is initially skeptical, wondering why they are meeting a rookie in such a casual setting. The streamer himself, Do Jae-mok, admits he chose Almond for his potential, but still maintains a bit of a superstar ego. Naeon teases him about a past failed collaboration, but Jae-mok insists that Almond's physical mechanics are the best in the country and that this is a vital future investment. However, when Naeon asks if he has actually met the guy in person, Jae-mok's silence reveals he is purely gambling on what he saw in the game footage. This uncertainty vanishes the moment Sang-hyun arrives at the table. Dressed in a sharp, formal suit, his appearance is so striking that Naeon is immediately floored by his good looks. Sang-hyun introduces himself with his real name, Yoo Sang-hyun, and offers a polite handshake that feels worlds apart from the typical gamer persona. The professional atmosphere intensifies when Joo-hyuk introduces himself as the manager. He hands out professionally printed business card, which leaves Sang-hyun wondering when he even had time to prepare them. Joo-hyuk's background at a major corporation and his socialized demeanor are so polished that Naeon feels intimidated and repeatedly bows, calling herself a mere manager in comparison. As the four of them settle in to discuss the broadcast sequence and documents, the conversation turns to the business side of things. Sang-hyun, feeling like a student in the industry, offers to do the collaboration for free. This suggestion shocks Jaemock and Naeon, who explain that unpaid labor is a relic of a slave era and would cause a massive scandal for their brand. Joo-hyuk tries to step in by suggesting a minimum wage, which shows that even an elite corporate mind is still figuring out how streaming revenue works. Jaemock dismisses the hourly pay idea and instead offers a 50-50 split of all donations generated during the joint broadcast. This generous proposal leaves Joo-hyuk stunned and marks the official beginning of Allman's professional career. As the sun sets over the city, Joo-hyuk and Sang-hyun walk together while checking the initial success of their professional partnership. Because Joo-hyuk has been meticulously researching the industry, he reveals that even a modest split of the donation revenue from an upcoming collaboration with Acorn Jelly could net them over $1 million. Our protagonist is stunned by his friend's foresight, especially when Joo-hyuk produces a digital recording of their previous meeting to ensure they are legally protected. This level of meticulous planning makes Sang-hyun realize why people like Joo-hyuk thrive in high-stakes corporate environments. To keep things fair, Joo-hyuk proposes a generous profit-sharing deal, where he only takes a cut once Sang-hyun is comfortably earning over $3 million a month. He jokingly credits his financial comfort to being an investment genius, which allows him to prioritize Sang-hyun's growth over immediate pay. When our hero finally logs back into the capsule, his stream is immediately flooded with viewers eager for news about the rumored collaboration. Because the leak has already spread, his audience is much larger than usual, forcing him to play it cool and pretend he knows nothing to keep the marketing plan intact. To get the show started, he announces his intention to hunt down a bandit leader in Kingdom Age. This claim causes an immediate stir in the chat, with veteran players mocking him because they believe bosses are designed to survive a single headshot. There is a brief moment of confusion over the name of a previous enemy, with the chat correcting him that he killed an elite mob named Burka, rather than a true boss. This skepticism leads to a high-stakes mission donation, where a viewer named Ruby Sword offers 100,000 won if our boy can actually pull off the impossible one-shot kill. Driven by the financial incentive and the growing energy of the stream, Sang-hyun accepts the challenge and dives into the game world. Inside the game, the atmosphere is more intimate as he is greeted by Amelia, a blonde noblewoman who expresses deep gratitude for his previous heroics. While the viewers urge him to ask for money, Sang-hyun chooses the humble path of a dedicated mercenary, which actually increases his favor with both the characters and his audience. This interaction highlights the difference between those who play for Amelia and those who prefer the secondary heroine, Rosanita. However, the piece is short-lived because Captain Roman organizes a night raid on a bandit camp hidden in a foggy mountain range. As the mercenaries launch their ambush, our protagonist finds himself in a high-pressure environment that feels indistinguishable from reality. Because he treats the bow with the same respect he did as an athlete, his focus becomes razor-sharp, allowing him to systematically pick off enemies from the shadows. The battle reaches a turning point when Sang-hyun's precision unlocks a new skill called consecutive shooting after he lands 3 perfect headshots in a row. While most players find this skill difficult to control, our hero's natural speed makes the arrows look like a blurred volley of magical light. He clears the camp with such efficiency that the chat begins to realize it is not the skill itself that is fast, but the man behind the bow. Amidst the chaos of the victory, a mercenary discovers the bandit boss already dead with an arrow buried deep in his head. The viewers are initially confused, insisting that a single shot shouldn't have been enough to kill a boss-level enemy. Just as it looks like the mission might be a failure due to game mechanics, a massive donation from Acorn Jelly confirms the truth. Sang-hyun has triggered a legendary perfect shot, a feat that bypasses all health bars. This leaves our hero stunned as he tries to process the technical reality of the rare skill he just performed. This causes an immediate stir because the veteran streamer is so insistent on the reality of this hidden mechanic, while his own chat begins to mock him by dismissively claiming the perfect shot is just a myth made up by desperate bow users. Deeply frustrated by the skepticism, Acorn Jelly watches Allman's character on his monitor and wishes our boy would just explain the mechanic clearly to the doubters. When the oblivious Sang-hyun eventually asks what a perfect shot even is, the superstar streamer is so stunned that his eyes go wide in shock. Our hero genuinely has no idea why everyone is making a fuss, which leaves Acorn Jelly slumped over his desk in disbelief. He realizes that our protagonist has been performing high-level professional mechanics without even knowing they exist, leading him to wonder just how much of a genius this guy really is. Driven by a sense of urgency and the feeling that the timing is perfect, Acorn Jelly sends another large donation to officially propose a collaboration stream for the following day. This sudden announcement causes the live chat to explode as viewers realize they are witnessing a rookie land a partnership with a Tier 1 celebrity just 3 days after starting. While Sang-hyun is initially surprised, he notices that some fans are worried that joining Acorn Jelly's circle might lead to a public execution or a failed debut. However, our protagonist decides to play it cool and observes that despite the negative comments, most people are secretly looking forward to the event. To seal the deal, a viewer named Rubysword promises another 100,000 won if our hero can prove the perfect shot is real during the collab. With a soft smile and a determined look, Almond accepts the offer and tells the audience that the stream is officially on. Before ending the night, our protagonist decides to give his fans one last performance to celebrate the successful broadcast. He realizes he has already defeated the boss and promoted the collab, so it feels like the perfect moment to log off. He draws back his bow and fires a celebratory arrow high into the moonlit sky, thanking his donors for their support. Unfortunately, the arrow follows a realistic trajectory and falls straight back down toward him, causing a bloody game over screen to splatter across the monitor. While the chat is left howling with laughter at his recurring comedic exits, Sang-hyun wakes up in his room and heads to the bathroom to splash water on his face. He begins to worry that getting forcefully bounced out of the game due to death might actually be affecting his brainwaves because of how intense the feedback feels. His thoughts are interrupted by a message from his manager, Joo-hyuk, who wants to know where they should meet. Sang-hyun is confused since he assumed they were meeting online, but Joo-hyuk reminds him of their previous agreement to do a real-life interview and stream. Because he had completely forgotten this detail, our boy realizes he doesn't have time to worry and suggests meeting at Hugi Station. While preparing, he checks the internet reactions and sees that the community is already obsessed with his suicide endings and his upcoming partnership. He even finds a breakdown video where a user tries to analyze his boss kill in slow motion. The analysis remains inconclusive as the shots land so quickly that even the viewers can't tell if it was one arrow or two. This confusion only builds the hype for the collab, with many people debating whether Almond is a high-level nerd or a master of video editing. The situation reaches a new level of intensity when Joo-hyuk calls to report that a teaser video on Acorn Jelly's channel has already surpassed 40,000 views in a single hour. The video features a professional edit of Almond's silhouette and arrows, ending with a bold question about whether the perfect shot truly exists. Because of this massive promotion, the next day's stream records the highest viewership across the entire platform. Inside the professional studio, the atmosphere is tense as Acorn Jelly checks in with Sang-hyun to make sure he is ready to show his face. Our hero tidies his clothes while Joo-hyuk and the studio staff prepare the cameras for the broadcast. As the red on air sign flashes, the stream begins with a flood of greetings from the audience. Sang-hyun is overwhelmed because the viewer count starts at a staggering 10,000 people and rapidly climbs toward 40,000. He watches as Acorn Jelly expertly interacts with the crowd to keep them engaged while waiting for more people to join the room. Eventually, the veteran streamer pumps his fist and tells the audience that they are finally going to prove the existence of the perfect shot. The chat explodes with excitement and skepticism, with thousands of people chanting Almond's name. With a dramatic introduction, the screen transitions to a glowing background as the host officially welcomes the genius archer of the hour to the stage. Since this is the first time he is showing his face, the chat descends into a frenzy of anticipation. While many viewers jokingly hope he is ugly, the camera pans up to reveal Sang-hyun in a denim jacket. His sharp features and blue eyes immediately shatter expectations, causing the chat to explode with shock and admiration. Some fans even feel a sense of betrayal because he is unexpectedly handsome, while others begin showering him with donations. Even Acorn Jelly can't help but gush, admitting he was just as stunned when they first met in person. The viewers are so taken aback that some accuse him of using a fake face to look better. When the veteran streamer asks the audience if they want an interview or gameplay, the crowd is divided between wanting to keep looking at Sang-hyun's face and seeing the legendary perfect shot in action. Amidst the chaos of a chat room moving too fast for our hero to read, Jae-mock tries to maintain order and keep things professional before they dive into the game. The mood shifts when Jae-mock asks for Sang-hyun's optimization code, only to be met with total confusion. It turns out our protagonist has no idea what that is, which leaves Jae-mock floored. He explains that this code is tailored to match a player's brainwaves and body to the capsule. Because Sang-hyun never did this, he has essentially been playing with a massive handicap, like dragging around a heavy sandbag. Behind the scenes, Joo-hyuk clutches his head in shame because he realized he was the one who forgot to mention this vital step. This technical oversight explains why Sang-hyun experienced a forceful shutdown every time he died. He simply assumed the game was designed to kick players out as a penalty, but in reality, his system was crashing from the lack of optimization. Jae-mock is left in awe, concluding that our boy is a genuine genius for performing world-class feats under such poor conditions. Sang-hyun doesn't shy away from the praise and calmly agrees that he might be a genius, which only makes him more likable to the audience. Once they finally run the optimization process, a blue flash signals that Sang-hyun is ready. He enters the virtual world feeling weightless and fluid, finally experiencing the digital space as it was intended. Jae-mock is eager to get started and takes him to a mission involving a goblin cave. During the wagon ride to the site, Jae-mock breaks down the mechanics of the perfect shot. It requires hitting a tiny center point on an enemy's vital area on the very first attempt. Because there are no second chances, it is considered one of the hardest moves to pull off. The professional tension is briefly broken by Captain Roman, who continues his hilarious favoritism. He violently scolds Jaemok for being loud and even threatens to split him in half, but he turns to Sanghyun with nothing but smiles and encouragement. Once they reach the cave, Roman orders our protagonist to take the lead and show the newcomer how it's done. Moving through the tall grass, Sanghyun realizes that his movements are much easier to control now that his character is optimized. He draws his bow with an intensity and begins picking off goblins with terrifying precision. Each shot is a masterpiece of efficiency, with one arrow even piercing through two enemies at once. Jaemok watches from behind his shield, completely mesmerized by how Almond has even adjusted his shooting style to be quieter for the ambush. He realizes that beyond Sanghyun's physical skills, he has a natural charisma that makes him look like he is constantly standing in a spotlight. As the last target falls, the screen reflects the truth that our hero is the undeniable star of the show. The Goblin Cave is a graveyard of green corpses, and a system notification officially confirms that every regular monster has been eliminated. As the dust settles, Captain Roman beams at Almond, praising his incredible efficiency. While the mercenaries prepare for their next move, the stream chat is buzzing with morbid excitement, noting that a place this dangerous should normally be drenched in human blood. Acorn Jelly, however, is too stunned to speak. He watches our protagonist stand calmly with his bow, realizing that a stage designed for an entire mercenary squad was essentially cleared by one man alone. As he wants to share this historic moment, Jaemok runs toward his virtual camera, screaming to his fans about the sheer power of the perfect shot. He tries to explain that it isn't just a simple kill, but a unique mechanic that leads to instant death. The viewers aren't entirely convinced, jokingly mocking him and claiming a headshot is just a headshot regardless of how he describes it. The victory lap is cut short when Roman points toward the smoke-filled cave entrance. He orders the mercenaries to pile up brush and set it ablaze, hoping to smoke out any remaining stragglers and finish them off without a fight. The group stands silhouetted against the massive flames, but their plan is interrupted by a piercing, high-pitched screech. A gigantic, green-clawed hand slams into the earth, and through the fire, a massive goblin champion with red eyes and long tusks emerges. A system alert flashes with a warning to eliminate the goblin champion. The chat explodes as viewers realize this is a true boss fight, and they begin challenging Almond to see if his perfect shot can defeat a creature of this scale. Roman bellows for everyone to get ready, while a frantic Jaemok reminds our hero that the conditions for the special shot are active. Almond draws his bowstring back with intense focus, but just as he is about to fire, he suddenly pauses and lowers his weapon. This hesitation causes a wave of confusion in the stream, with fans wondering if our guy is finally cracking under the pressure. In reality, Almond has spotted a critical problem. The boss is wearing a heavy iron skull mask. Because the forehead is completely shielded, a standard shot is out of the equation. Our protagonist briefly considers aiming for a different body part, but he knows the head is the most vital point and the easiest target to hit once a strategy is found. With a look of sudden resolve, our hero shifts his stance and aims his bow almost vertically toward the sky. The chat is baffled, with some fans jokingly asking if he is planning to end his stream again. Ignoring the noise, Almond releases the arrow, sending it streaking toward the full moon. He realizes that a perfect shot only needs to hit the critical point, so it does not necessarily have to be the forehead. As the arrow peaks and begins its descent, it plunges straight down behind the helmet, piercing the champion's head from above. The impact is so violent that the monster's head snaps down before its massive body slams into the dirt. Roman and Jaemok are frozen in total silence. It takes a few seconds for the reality to sink in, but once it does, the stream erupts with excitement as the chat logs move at high speed. Jaemok throws his hands in the air with a deafening cheer, and the financial rewards follow immediately. A viewer named Rubysword kicks off the celebration with a 200,000 won donation, which causes Almond to break into a sweat from the pressure of the alerts. Back in the real-world studio, Sanghyun pulls himself out of the capsule, physically exhausted, and noting that even the latest models lack a proper cooling system. While Jaemok and Naeon celebrate their record-breaking numbers with a joyful dance, Naeon informs the group that the game stream actually went down because the server was congested by the volume of chat and donations. Juhyuk joins the conversation, suggesting they resume the broadcast for an interview to keep the momentum going. Despite his messy hair and exhaustion, Sanghyun returns to the camera alongside Jaemok. The face reveal hype continues to grow, with viewers calling him a Robin Hood with NPC visuals. The mood is lighthearted as Jaemok snaps back at fans who tease him for crying during the boss kill, but the atmosphere shifts when the donations start again. Juhyuk and Sanghyun are left in shock when a viewer named Seojia drops a staggering 1 million won in a single go, later adding another 100,000 won because she thinks Almond is handsome. To wrap up the event, Jaemok presents a questionnaire based on fan votes. Instead of technical gaming questions, the fans are obsessed with Sanghyun's lifestyle, asking about his skincare routine, his lip tint, and whether he has a girlfriend. Our boy answers with his signature honesty, admitting he doesn't use any special products and is currently single. As the sun sets over the city, the group reflects on the heartwarming nature of the experience and the interesting reality of gaming while streaming. As they pack up, Joo-hyuk shows off his management skills by presenting a gift box to the hosting team, a gesture that deeply impresses Sang-hyun. Jae-mok then suggests they talk about the business side of the event as he pulls up his tablet to show the total revenue generated from the collaboration. The professional atmosphere quickly turns into a scene of total disbelief when Jae-mok reveals his tablet. Because the collaboration was such a massive success, the screen displays a total estimated revenue of over 5.3 million won. This figure causes Sang-hyun and Joo-hyuk to gasp in unison, as they find it hard to process such a large amount of money for a single day of work. Our protagonist is so stunned that he asks if this level of income is normal, but Jae-mok clarifies that this is actually a personal record even for him. Once the manager Nayeon steps in with coffee, she explains that after an even split, Sang-hyun's share comes out to nearly 2.7 million won. This realization forces the two newcomers to bow deeply in gratitude, though Jae-mok feels he should be the one thanking them for the incredible content. The conversation naturally shifts toward how professional streaming actually generates money. Because Joo-hyuk is curious about the business model, Jae-mok explains that while donations are a nice bonus, the real steady income comes from advertising. He compares the revenue from the streaming platform to a basic salary that scales with the number of viewers. Nayeon adds that her primary role as a manager is to secure third-party contracts, ranging from game ads to clothing and equipment sponsorships. She even points out that Jae-mok's current outfit is a sponsored product. Because of Sang-hyun's striking looks, she suggests his career path will likely mirror that of a celebrity. This leads to a joke at Jae-mok's expense, as Nayeon teases that while funny-looking streamers rely on their humor, handsome ones like Sang-hyun can earn 90% of their income through their image alone. While the group shares a laugh over Jae-mok being compared to a squid, the mood becomes more serious when Sang-hyun clarifies his goals. He appreciates the financial advice but emphasizes that his true passion is being a video game streamer. Both Jae-mok and Nayeon respect this, though they suggest he should eventually look into mainstream media activities to boost his reach. They use successful streamers like Soggy Ramyun as examples of creators who maintain their gaming roots while appearing on major broadcast networks. Jae-mok notes that for these top-tier creators, their edited content on AllTube often becomes their main source of income, while live streaming serves as a space for fan communication. Nayeon recommends that Sang-hyun eventually move into this major scene, though she warns that he will need a professional editor to make it work. Since Joo-hyuk has no experience in editing, Jae-mok advises them to take things slow and find a specialist later as the channel grows. The meeting concludes with a firm handshake in the parking garage. As Sang-hyun and Joo-hyuk drive away, Jae-mok stands in the cold, feeling a sense of awe. He admits to his manager that he is genuinely envious because Sang-hyun's raw talent is simply beyond reach. Later, Joo-hyuk pulls his car to the curb in Sang-hyun's neighborhood. He senses his friend is overthinking the talk about platforms and reminds him not to rush, as his natural ability guarantees success. This support gives Sang-hyun the boost he needs as he begins the walk up the stone stairs to his house. The cold air brings back a vivid memory of his grandmother, reminding him of how he used to carry her bags to keep her from slipping on the ice. He feels a pang of regret that she isn't here to see his success, especially since he just earned enough money to change their lives. Standing on the stairs, Sang-hyun looks down at his right hand and clenches it into a fist. He is moved by the fact that throughout the entire high-pressure stream, his arm never trembled once. Because the virtual world has given him a fresh start, the limb that was once a source of pain for him and his grandmother has finally become a source of strength again. He feels as though the supportive people in his life were sent by her, and he resolves to work his hardest to repay their kindness. Even though he jokes to himself that she might tell him it's too late to start a new career, he promises her he will keep moving forward. Meanwhile, the internet is already doing the work for him. Community forums are flooded with praise for his perfect shot, and a high-quality fan edit of his stream is already gaining massive traction in the editor's community. Jae-mok realizes that with this kind of momentum and a face that people love, it truly feels like heaven is lending Sang-hyun a hand. On a quiet morning where only the sound of chirping sparrows fills the air, Yoo Sang-hyun stands in his bathroom drying his hair and organizing his thoughts. Because of the advice he received the day before, he begins breaking down the two main revenue models for streamers. He recognizes that while live streams thrive on donations and viewer-proportional ads, the edited world of AllTube relies heavily on sponsorships and high-end commercial deals. Our hero realizes his specific style fits the latter perfectly, which aligns with Joo-hyuk's previous assessment that he should aim for a celebrity-style trajectory rather than a standard gamer persona. His manager is so convinced of this path that he's already pushing for him to become a commercial model, though Sang-hyun feels the need to slow things down. The focus shifts to the practical side of this goal, as the protagonist realizes that sponsorships require a professional-grade editor. While browsing trending Kingdom Age videos for potential talent, he happens upon a montage of a classy archer and is stunned to see his own character, Almond, as the thumbnail. The uploader is a fan named Gia, whom he recognizes as the viewer who previously donated $1,000,000. As he watches the video, he is floored by the cinematic quality. Because she used sophisticated background music, color grading, and a narrative structure, the footage of him fighting bandits feels more like a real movie than a game. Even the archer himself is amazed by the intensity of his own play, especially seeing his glowing yellow eyes captured in such high definition. After seeing the positive reception in the comments, our boy decides he needs to contact his manager immediately. However, his phone vibrates first with a message from Juhyuk, who was already watching the same video. Because they currently lack a steady income and cannot afford high salaries, Juhyuk takes it upon himself to handle the situation. He tells Sunghyun to focus entirely on the game while he manages the networking, insisting they need to act while the momentum is high. This reassurance motivates our hero to step into his gaming capsule for some serious preparation. He acknowledges that while his shooting is flawless, his general physical stats in the game aren't outstanding yet, which makes high-intensity training essential for skill-based streaming. Our protagonist spends 3 grueling hours clearing training simulations on the highest difficulty level. He emerges from the capsule completely exhausted and panting, but he barely has time to recover before his next scheduled broadcast. Because he's hungry and pressed for time, he simply grabs a carton of milk and a bowl of almonds to eat quickly. While he chews, he feels a surge of nerves regarding how the community will react to his recent collaboration and the new viral videos. He knows the results of his growing fame will be visible the moment his stream goes live. Meanwhile, at the headquarters of the major game distributor Funk, an employee is slumped over his desk in despair. He feels responsible for the low sales of Kingdom Age, despite the game receiving excellent reviews from experts. He wishes for a star player to drop out of the sky to save the project, though he knows such a miracle is unlikely for a non-esports title. His mood shifts instantly when he discovers the fan-made video of Almond. He is impressed by the editing, but he's even more captivated by the raw skill of the player. The employee realizes that a newcomer who is both incredibly talented and handsome is the perfect candidate for a marketing push. Because the account is only a few days old, he knows he can secure a deal before the streamer's value skyrockets. He follows the channel just as a notification rings out, signaling that Almond has started streaming at that exact moment. When he joins the broadcast to see the gameplay for himself, he is shocked to see the viewer count rapidly surging past 1,000 people, confirming that the rookie is already becoming a sensation. Yoo Sung-hyun initially panics when he sees over 1,000 people waiting, which is a massive jump from his previous numbers. As the count continues to skyrocket past 1,100, our protagonist is visibly shocked, wondering where all these people came from. His manager, Juhyuk, watches from his desk with excitement, realizing that breaking the 1,000-viewer barrier is the unofficial rite of passage for becoming a full-time professional streamer. Unfortunately, the sudden surge of attention brings a new kind of pressure. During his collab with Acorn Jelly and Neon, our protagonist had pros handling the logistics, but now he has to manage a chaotic, fast-moving chat all by himself. He stays silent for a moment in a bit of a daze, prompting the chat to call him a dimwit and demand he start talking. He realizes that handling 50,000 viewers during a collab was only possible because of the pros supporting him. Now that he is alone, his hands begin to sweat. To center himself, our hero takes a breath and welcomes everyone, feeling a sense of warmth from the enthusiastic greeting. The viewers are immediately vocal, questioning why the stream is voice-only. Since his main streams haven't featured a camera before, many new fans are demanding he show his face. Sang-yoon notices a long list of messages about this and feels the demand growing. Luckily, Juhyuk sends him a direct message with a link to a web post. The post is titled with his name and features handsome, stylized captures of his face reveal from the collab, surrounded by digital roses. Our boy realizes his real-life face has already spread across the internet. Feeling like a bit of a show-off, but secretly loving the attention, he decides to turn on the camera. As soon as he appears in a small camera feed, the chat explodes with excitement and marriage proposals. Donations start rolling in immediately, with fans explaining they couldn't donate during the high-speed collab, but wanted to support him now. Sang-hyun waves to the audience and thanks them for the warm welcome before transitioning into the game. He dives back into the world of Kingdom Age at dusk, appearing as his character Almond in a green cloak. He is greeted by the blonde noblewoman, Emilia, who praises him for dealing with the local goblins. While the chat is busy being charmed by her beauty, the atmosphere shifts when Emilia takes our protagonist's hands and holds them close to her chest. This sudden intimacy shocks the viewers, who wonder how he raised his affinity with her so quickly. Emilia looks serious and reveals that she has another mission for him, but she wants him to do it alone, bypassing Captain Roman. She points toward a nearby castle and asks him to assassinate the lord who lives there. This request sends shockwaves through the stream. While the chat jokes that she's basically telling him to go die, our hero accepts the mission choice on his digital menu. Meanwhile, an employee from the game distributor Funk watches the stream with bated breath. He notes that while he's played the game multiple times, completing a siege mission with a bow is practically impossible. He reflects on how Kingdom Age sieges are notoriously difficult because the AI is advanced and players are easily surrounded. The biggest problem is the target, Lord Talorant, who is encased in heavy armor from head to toe, the worst possible opponent for an archer. However, the employee realizes that if Sang-hyun pulls this off, it will provide the magic needed to turn him into a true star. Inside the game, Almond confirms his acceptance, feeling that he needs to take these risks to make it big. He reasons that since the game is historically accurate, the castle shouldn't be too grand, likely housing no more than 50 people. When he asks why the Lord must die, Emilia reveals that Talorant is a tyrant who enslaves his own people through high-interest debt, including women and children. This gives our hero a moral reason to proceed. As a wolf howls under the full moon, Sang-hyun begins his stealthy approach. He moves through a cornfield toward the castle, noting that his character's movements feel much smoother and quieter now. This improved performance is the direct result of the grueling 3-hour training session he completed earlier. The first major obstacle appears at the castle walls, 2 guards patrolling a walkway together. If he takes one out, the other will surely sound the alarm. While the chat mocks him and insists that killing 2 people simultaneously with a bow makes no sense, our protagonist doesn't blink. He stares up at the moon with intense yellow eyes and tells his audience he has already thought of a way to silence them both at once. As the light gleams off his sharp silver arrowhead, he prepares for the shot. This causes a wave of skepticism in the chat because players believe shooting 2 arrows simultaneously is a movie trope that shouldn't work in a realistic game like Kingdom Age. Our boy doesn't let the doubt faze him, and instead positions himself in the spotlight of the night to prove them wrong. Because he understands the physics of the game, he explains his logic of using a high arch to delay the landing of the first shot. He aims his bow almost vertically and fires the first arrow into the clouds, immediately knocking a second one to fire directly at the walkway. This causes the 2 arrows to converge on their targets at the exact same moment. The precision is so perfect that both guards are struck in the head before they can react, causing one to drop his flaming torch as they collapse. This display of skill sends the chat into a total frenzy, with fans calling him a monster and a god for pulling off such a feat live. While the viewers celebrate, a game distribution employee at Funk is watching from his office in complete disbelief. He realizes that in all his years of seeing top-tier players, he has never encountered anyone with this level of talent. This realization forces him to call his director immediately, insisting they set up a meeting to recruit our protagonist before anyone else gets the chance. Back in the castle, the reality of the mission starts to weigh on Sang-hyun. He manages to scale the tower but ends up gripping the stone edge, feeling completely exhausted. He notes that the game feels like a nightmare for any physical activity that isn't archery. When the chat wonders how he climbed the wall so easily, he recalls that he actually spent time practicing on the highest difficulty setting. Once he catches his breath, he decides to start cleaning up the bodies to maintain his cover. He moves through the shadows and encounters a patrolling guard who is wondering where his sleeping colleagues went. Almond remains crouched and fires a silent arrow into the man's throat, ensuring he dies without a struggle or any loud bleeding. As he moves the bodies out of sight, the chat warns him that the mission is about to get much harder once he enters the castle interior, where close combat is unavoidable. To prepare for this, our hero enters the armory and puts on a red guard's uniform, even though the gear feels stiff and uncomfortable. The stealth nearly breaks when a yawning guard spots him, but Sang-hyun silences him with a point-blank shot to the chest. This intense environment triggers a wave of nostalgia for our protagonist, reminding him of the absolute focus he felt during his professional competitions. Because he is so immersed in the hit-or-miss nature of the world, he feels himself becoming stronger with every step. Unfortunately, the sound of his footsteps eventually draws too much attention, leading the viewers to think the stealth mission has failed. When a guard spots him and screams for backup, Almond fires an arrow into the man's foot. While the chat thinks he's losing his form due to tension, he is actually using the wounded enemy as a tactical distraction. He continues sprinting through the corridors, firing rapid shots that drop guards in quick succession. Despite his high-speed accuracy, he can't stop one guard from blowing a horn to signal an intruder. Suddenly, the hallways are flooded with armored guards brandishing spears and halberds. Our guy finds himself backed into a corner and surrounded by weapons, leaving the audience wondering how he can possibly survive now that the entire castle is on high alert. A squad of armored guards charges forward with weapons drawn, screaming for blood and surrounding our protagonist. This sudden escalation causes the stream chat to panic, because the basic rules of a stealthy assassination have been completely broken. While the viewers assume the mission is over now that he's been exposed, Almond remains remarkably composed. He realizes that being spotted isn't a problem if he can eliminate everyone before they can react. To handle the crowd, he reaches for his quiver with blinding speed and pulls 3 arrows at once. As he triggers his consecutive shooting skill, he's able to unleash a rapid, blurred succession of shots that strike the frontline guards directly in the forehead. The lethality of this display causes the remaining guards to stop in their tracks, paralyzed by the sight of their fallen comrades. One surviving guard pales as he notices that every single arrow is perfectly centered in the helmets of the dead. He begins to tremble and screams that they are facing a monster, urging the others to run away. The formation breaks as the guards flee in a frantic scramble up the castle stairs. Our boy doesn't hesitate and immediately begins a pursuit, maintained by a rhythmic sprint. This pursuit shocks the chat, as they wonder if it is even possible to shoot accurately while running. Almond simply explains that it is, noting that his success comes from unwavering concentration, rather than just the freedom of the virtual space. He continues to land headshots mid-sprint until the staircase is littered with bodies and the hallway falls silent. At the top of the stairs, our hero stands silhouetted in a bright light and finally lowers his bow. He wipes a bead of sweat from his chin and gives his viewers a sharp, confident smile, asking them how they liked the performance. The chat responds with absolute chaos, flooding the screen with marriage proposals and praise for his killer visuals. Because of this high-level play, donations from viewers like Rubysword and Thor start rolling in. Almond notices the financial support and feels encouraged, noting that his stream is finally starting to do well. With his confidence at a peak, he turns toward a large arched doorway to find his main target. He pushes open the heavy iron-bound doors of the throne room, which creak loudly as he enters. Inside, he finds a figure in black plate armor sitting motionless on a stone throne. Our hero is surprised because he expected a weak, elderly lord, but this man has a clear boss presence and holds a colossal greatsword. Almond realizes the infiltration wasn't a secret at all since the lord was sitting there waiting for him. The lord breaks the silence by casually throwing his giant sword like a projectile, forcing our protagonist to duck just as the blade embeds itself into the door behind him. The lord asks if he came alone, his voice sounding deep and distorted from behind his helmet. The situation becomes even more lopsided when the lord snaps his fingers to summon 3 elite armored guards who flank him. The viewers are terrified because these minions are encased in flawless armor with no visible gaps. While the chat suggests Almond should grab the greatsword stuck in the door to use as a blunt weapon, our boy decides that would be too risky since he isn't familiar with heavy blades. He believes every mission has a solution that fits the player's chosen weapon, so he focuses his golden eyes on the leading guard's helmet. He spots a competitive opening and dashes forward, sliding under a sword swing and firing an arrow at point-blank range. The arrow strikes the visor with such force that the guard's helmet is knocked completely off. This feat stuns the viewers, who didn't think it was possible to unmask an armored enemy with a bow. Almond maintains his fluidity, knocking another arrow and firing it so that the next helmet flies off and strikes a third guard in the background. Now that the first guard is unmasked and charging in a fury, our hero evades the reckless swings and draws his string to its limit. He fires a final shot between the man's eyes, ending the fight with a cold, professional, "too late." After the other 2 guards are dealt with, Almond stands alone in the center of the hall facing the lord. The lord acknowledges the skill, but rises to his full, towering height, clanking in his heavy armor as he marches toward our protagonist. The chat points out that the lord's helmet doesn't have the same mechanical weakness as the previous guards, making him much harder to kill. Instead of retreating, Almond feels magical energy beginning to surge around his hands and his bow. He realizes that because he has landed 3 consecutive headshots, his conditions have been met. His eyes glow a supernatural blue as he prepares to test if the breakthrough he found is the right way to take down a boss of this caliber. Almond relies on his recent breakthrough to handle the armored threat. Because the consecutive shooting skill is active, he uses the arrows previously embedded in the floor as a makeshift quiver, crouching low to retrieve them with a steady hand. Lord Talorant remains immobile, mocking the archer by claiming that arrows are useless against his heavy plate. Even the stream chat begins to doubt our boy, wondering why he would choose a bow for such a disadvantageous boss fight. Our hero stays perfectly still until his eyes glow with a supernatural focus. He tells his audience that he has found a way before releasing a shot that hits the Lord's chest with a violent impact. When the boss dismisses the attack and begins a menacing walk forward, Almond doesn't retreat. Instead, he fires another arrow that strikes the exact same spot on the breastplate. This isn't just a random attack. He begins a rapid-fire barrage, landing 40 consecutive shots on a single point of contact until the friction causes sparks to fly like a welder at work. The Lord is physically pushed back by the sheer momentum of the machine gun speed arrows. He shouts in frustration, realizing that the archer is systematically drilling through his defenses. After a final cluster of arrows hits the weakened spot, the metal begins to fracture. Almond draws his final arrow and tells the viewers it's enough before releasing it like a green comet. The shot pierces the cracked armor and goes straight through the Lord's chest, causing black blood to splatter against the red carpet. As Talorant's body slams onto the floor, the chat erupts in a wall of text, celebrating the impossible victory. The viewers jokingly claim the Lord died of a heartthrob, while a purple donation alert for 300,000 won flashes on the screen from Seogia. Our protagonist is visibly shocked by the massive amount, especially since he recognizes her as a recurring whale donor. The scene shifts to a flashback in the real world to explain the girl behind the donation. Seogia is shown being swept away by a suffocating crowd on a subway train. For her, the noise and the push of the city are exhausting, making her wish she could fall into a vast empty sea. She eventually escapes the station and walks up dark neighborhood stairs to her apartment, where watching Almond's stream is her only joy. She initially got hooked because of his nickname, which reminded her of the butter carrot almonds sitting on her desk. Inside her room, Gia watches the boss fight with wide, blushing eyes. When Almond clears the mission she thought was impossible, she cheers and begins typing rapidly. She decides to donate 300,000 won because she doesn't want to lose to any other donors, feeling that spending money on her own happiness is worth it. When Almond thanks her and mentions her name feels familiar, she smiles with extreme joy, wondering what kind of reaction he will give her next. In the present, Sang-yeon pulls himself out of his capsule feeling tired but satisfied. He reflects on how the optimization changed his stream's ending, but he's mostly preoccupied with Gia's identity. He worries that a young person might be spending too much on a streamer and feels a bit burdened by the large amount. Meanwhile, Gia is already at her editing workstation. She realizes that her company resources are perfect for making high-quality montages of his gameplay. As she clicks away at her timeline, she is convinced that as Almond grows, the epic videos she creates will only get more impressive. Next morning, Yoo Sang-yoon is jolted awake by a vibrating phone call from his manager, Joo-hyuk. After a bit of playful banter about the early hour and a fake offer of lasagna for lunch, the conversation turns to a pressing business matter. They are trying to track down Seo Gia, the talented creator behind the viral archery montage, but Joo-hyuk explains that her account is private and she isn't checking any public comments. As they are stuck, Joo-hyuk suggests waiting for her to donate during a live stream to ask her then, but our boy is hesitant to use that route. He prefers a more professional approach, so they agree to simply wait for now, even if it delays the hiring process. To clear his head from these complicated thoughts, Sang-hyun decides to focus on cleaning his apartment. He hauls a heavy, overflowing trash bag out of the building and begins the long descent down the steep stone stairs of his hillside neighborhood. He tries to stay positive about the daily climb by treating it as exercise, reminding himself that tough situations eventually become familiar. However, his rhythm is suddenly shattered when a landing door swings open with a massive impact, slamming directly into him. A woman in a black cap and long dark hair, who is actually Seo Gia, rushes out in a panic to see if he is all right. As Sang-yeon sits on the floor rubbing a bump on his head, Gia looks at him with the expression of absolute wide-eyed shock. Our hero feels a bit dazed but assures her he is fine before picking up his trash bag to finish his chores. While he is standing by the recycling bins, Joo-hyuk calls back in a state of high energy because Gia just premiered a new video titled "The Archer Who Took Over the Castle Alone." The video is an immediate hit, reaching thousands of concurrent viewers and trending in the gaming category. Joo-hyuk mentions he left a contact comment on the post, but they still have no way of knowing if she will see it. Just as the call ends, the woman from the stairs comes running toward our protagonist, panting heavily from the chase. Sang-hyun assumes he dropped something, but Gia instead holds out a notepad and pen, asking for his autograph with a flushed face. This catches our boy completely off guard, making him realize that even in his quiet neighborhood, he has encountered a genuine fan. When he asks for her name to personalize the signature, she reveals herself as Seo Gia. Because this lucky meeting solves their communication hurdle, the three of them soon gather at a cafe to discuss a potential partnership. During the meeting, Joo-hyuk learns that Gia has a background in video work as both a major and a hobby, which explains the high quality of her edits. He wastes no time sliding a formal contract across the table, inviting her to officially join the team. Joo-hyuk notices her hesitation and decides to make a strategic point about the legalities of her current work. He explains that fan channels fundamentally cannot generate revenue due to copyright issues, which surprises Gia since her videos were never intended for profit anyway. In fact, her previous $1,000,000 donation proves that her motivations are rooted in fan love rather than money. Sensing that financial gain isn't her priority, Joo-hyuk shifts his strategy to a more emotional appeal. He emphasizes that the Almond channel specifically needs her help and that her unique style is irreplaceable. Our hero joins in the pitch, admitting he has been looking for her for a long time and truly wants her creative input. This sense of being needed strikes a deep chord with Jaya, who has been searching for a purpose. She looks radiant and blushing as she clutches her drink, clearly moved by their sincerity. While she agrees to think about the offer, she mentions there is still one lingering problem they need to discuss before moving forward. Since Gia's current company doesn't allow double contracts, she would have to quit her job to become Almond's official editor. She feels conflicted because she still needs a steady income to survive, and she worries that relying solely on video revenue is too risky compared to her current salary. In short, she needs a guaranteed base pay to make the leap, This honesty makes Sang-hyun incredibly nervous, since he hasn't even been streaming for a week and can't even afford to buy his manager a drink, let alone pay someone a full-time salary. Just as the protagonist suggests they take more time to think, Joo-hyuk smiles and pulls a digital proposal out of his laptop. He reveals an email from the game distributor Punk, who has reached out with a partner streamer proposal. Because this package includes a specific budget for editor employment costs, the financial hurdle disappears instantly. Gia is so shocked she covers her mouth, while our hero is flabbergasted that a massive company actually wants to sponsor him. Seeing the resolve in Gia's eyes as she looks at the laptop, she decides to sign the contract immediately. Sang-hyun watches her and realizes that while it's a big life decision, she was likely desperate to escape her old workplace, which is a feeling he finds deeply relatable. Joo-hyuk breaks down the specifics, offering a base salary of 25 million won per year, plus a 40% cut of the YouTube incentives. Although he offers a 50-50 split option without the base pay, Gia chooses the stability of a fixed salary and officially signs the papers. Once they step outside the cafe, Joo-hyuk promises to contact her once the final details with Punk are settled. Gia asks about her old videos, leading Joo-hyuk to explain they will need to be re-uploaded to the official channel for better management. After she bows and walks away, Sang-hyun grabs his manager's arm to make sure the Punk deal isn't a scam. Joo-hyuk is offended at the suggestion, insisting he saw the email that morning and that the terms are far too good to ignore. As they walk through the city, Joo-hyuk remarks that Gia seemed a bit cold and serious since she didn't smile once during the meeting. Sang-hyun points out that being a fan is different from entering a professional contract, though Joo-hyuk still finds her lack of emotion surprising given how much she donated. The reality of Gia's mood is revealed the moment she enters her apartment. As soon as the door clicks shut, she dives onto her bed and kicks her legs in a fit of pure excitement, screaming into her pillow. She is blushing and overwhelmed because meeting her idol in person and becoming his editor feels like a dream. Looking at the folded contract, she realizes she has finally escaped the toxic environment of her old job. She recalls how her former bosses and colleagues used to mock her for being a community college graduate, telling her she'd never find a better place to work. Seeing the glowing comments on her recent almond videos makes her feel recognized for the first time, and she curls up on her bed with a strange, happy feeling. Back at his own place, our protagonist decides to start his stream early for the day. As he prepares to log in, Gia sends him a message with a file titled Intro Video. Sang-hyun is stunned that she produced a high-quality intro song and video in the tiny window of time since they parted ways. She explains that she didn't do it all at once but had been working on it as a hobby for a while. Seeing the professional quality of the preview, our hero is in awe of what she can do when she actually puts in her full effort. He sends her a quick thank you and officially launches the broadcast. Notifications ring out across the phones of various fans, and the chat rapidly fills with over 200 people. When the cinematic intro plays, the viewer count surges past 200 as fans immediately recognize Gia's work and suspect she has been recruited. Sang-hyun turns on his camera to greet everyone, thanking donors like Ruby Sword and Eggplant before diving into the game world. He spawns back inside the castle where the corpses of the guards are still scattered across the floor. He tells his audience that since he cleared the place alone, it's only fair that he loots some items. He opens a treasure chest and finds 3 glowing high-end bows, eventually picking one that looks particularly badass. He also equips a new set of armor and a green cloak, noting that the weight limit is the only thing stopping him from taking more. Now that he's better protected and unlikely to die in one hit, he mounts his horse to complete the quest. Since travel time isn't strictly realistic, the game transitions from night to day as he arrives at the location of Emilia's carriage. He hides in the bushes until she spots him, and the noblewoman is visibly shocked to see him back so soon. She leads him away for a private conversation, assuming he gave up or changed his mind. When Almond calmly reports that the mission is complete after only 2 days, Emilia is bewildered by his speed. He breaks down his timeline of travel and preparation, while the chat laughs because in real-world time, it only took him a single day. The confusion deepens when Emilia points out that she specifically asked for an assassination. Our boy smiles and explains that as the security was tight, he simply decided to kill every single person in the castle. This makes Emilia stand in a state of absolute frozen shock at his brutal interpretation of the task. It takes her a moment to cover her mouth and regain her composure, while the stream chat erupts with laughter at her stunned reaction. Once she settles herself, she confirms with our boy that the fortress is indeed completely vacant. Almond calmly verifies that no one is left, which prompts Emilia to realize that they cannot afford any further delay. She explains that they must move immediately to protect the people and secure the territory for the Jeanneret family, before other rival nobles can exert their influence. This strategic necessity leads her to order her attendants to prepare a carriage at once. As the vehicle is brought forward, Emilia invites Almond to ride inside with her, rather than staying behind with the soldiers. She catches him lost in thought and encourages him to get in, blushing deeply as she admits she has a great deal she wants to ask him. The viewers in the chat go wild over this development, noting that seizing a castle appears to be a shortcut to maxing out a character's likability rating. As the carriage moves down the dirt path, the conversation inside turns to the mechanics of Almond's victory. Emilia is genuinely baffled by how one person could be so powerful, noting that even the most elite knights she has seen haven't achieved such a feat. Our hero humbly brushes off the praise, insisting he just happens to be good at shooting arrows. When he clarifies that he is a mercenary rather than a knight, Emilia asks if he has ever considered taking a formal title to manage the castle once it is incorporated into their territory. Sangyun finds the idea unlikely given his status, which leaves Emilia looking slightly disappointed, though she quickly pivots to mention that her father is eager to meet him. She playfully shushes him when he tries to question how the Earl found out so quickly, calling it a lady's courtesy to overlook the details of how information travels. When they finally arrive at the stone gates of Talorant, the local workers are initially confused and wonder if the newcomers are hostile. Emilia steps out of the carriage to announce their arrival from Jeanneret, causing a wave of muttering among the townspeople. While some workers wonder if they should resist, others point out that Talorant's forces have been completely wiped out and there is no one left to protect them anyway. As the tattered red and black banners of the old regime are lowered, a majestic new golden flag with a white flower emblem is unfurled from the castle walls. Almond asks if they should give a speech to establish authority, but Emilia believes the people will adapt naturally without a grand display. A week passes, and the territory undergoes a massive transformation. Because the people were previously drowning in debt and facing slavery, the new administration allows them to repay their obligations through fair labor, while actually keeping a portion of their earnings. This shift causes the once lifeless area to teem with newfound vitality. In the midst of this progress, Emilia finds Almond looking out a window and reminds him that they are scheduled to meet her father the following day. The two share an intimate moment, holding hands in the sunlit hallway as the chat teases them about setting a speed record for a romance route. However, the peaceful atmosphere is suddenly shattered by the piercing blast of a silver horn. The alarm draws them to the ramparts where they witness a massive army of the allied families of Talorant gathering on the horizon to retake the fortress. While Emilia is visibly shaken, Almond remains focused and assures her that he can stop the invasion. Below the walls, mercenary Captain Roman takes charge, rallying the troops to defend the castle for the honor of Lady Jeanneret. As the soldiers let out a deafening cheer, the view focuses on our protagonist's golden eyes. The transition from a stealthy assassination to a full-scale defensive war is made official by a final quest banner, commanding Almond to lead the forces to a total victory. This shifts to the game world where rows of armored soldiers stand ready, prompting the stream chat to explode with excitement over the large scale of the battle. The viewers are amazed that our protagonist reached this point in just a few days, especially since even the most persistent streamers usually fail to see this content. Some fans compare him to a creator named Bubblegum, but Almond quickly asks everyone to refrain from mentioning other streamers out of respect. After noticing a comment about how much his streaming has improved, our guy suddenly gives a confident thumbs up. He tells the audience he's wrapping up for the day, which sends the chat into a frantic panic because they were just getting started. Despite the protests and tears, he thanks everyone for watching and ends the broadcast with flash that fades to black. Back in reality, Sang-hyun lies in his dark room looking at his phone. He smiles while scrolling through the dejected viewer comments, realizing he ended the stream at the perfect moment to build hype. He recalls a lecture from JMOC about the importance of knowing when to stop a story-driven game, even if it leaves people disappointed in the short term. While looking through community posts, he finds a thread about how to maximize Lady Emilia's affection. The post jokes that the method is simple: just conquer a castle by yourself. The comments are filled with laughter, with some people calling it an information post while others jokingly refuse to buy the game because of the difficulty. Sang-hyun finds it strange that people think his gameplay was so challenging, especially since he sees comments calling his performance world-class and legendary. He rolls over in bed and wonders if a professional archer could easily pull off what he did. He begins to question if he has a specific talent for virtual reality or if his high concentration is the key. While archery requires focus, he doesn't think it's exclusive to athletes. He quickly accepts this and moves on to an analysis post about his skills. The author provides professional details, noting that his posture is comparable to a pro and his bowstring placement is precise. This shocks our hero as he realizes the person writing this isn't an amateur, especially when they claim to be a former athlete. Sang-hyun grips his phone in shock, wondering who it could be, as most people in the field cut ties with him 10 years ago. He reflects on how only his coach knew the real reason he quit was an injury from an accident. This triggers a flashback to a sunset 10 years ago. A young woman with long dark hair confronts him, asking if he's really quitting. When he tells her archery isn't fun anymore, she shouts in desperation, asking who will lead the others if he stops. He insists he is serious and walks away, leaving her devastated on the path as the sun sets. Back in the present, community posts are debating how Almond's siege will go and whether he can handle so many knights. Sang-hyun finds the skepticism interesting and appreciates the engagement. While walking down his neighborhood stairs, he spots Seo-jia at her door. He invites her to walk with him, and she mentions she has something to show him. They eventually sit on a park bench where Sang-hyun hands her a bottle of water. Jia pulls out her phone to show him the new videos she made for the channel. She is flustered when she mentions they will be uploaded to his official page. The video starts with a clip from his first stream, highlighting that his account was created only a day before he started. It shows the chat warning him that the bow is difficult to use, but he picks it anyway. The edit moves quickly, showing him landing headshots and silencing the doubters. Sang-hyun is impressed by the hologram effects and how the speed of the editing keeps the viewer from getting bored. He loves watching the chat reactions included in the video, where people accuse him of being a pro on a new account. He tells Jia the video is a work of art. He praises the condensed highlights, the clear CG, and the witty inclusion of the chat. Jia looks dizzy and overwhelmed by the intense praise. She explains that they shouldn't upload it yet, as it's better to release 3 or 4 videos at once to build momentum. She asks to keep making them in this style, and Sang-hyun happily agrees. Later that night, Jia collapses onto her bed at home, feeling exhausted but rewarded by the acknowledgement. As she smiles about the successful meeting, her phone rings. She expects it to be Almond, but her expression turns to shock when she sees the notification. The screen reveals a new message from a contact she has labeled as a psycho bastard. The anticipation for Yoo Sang-hyun's next move reaches a fever pitch across the Kingdom Age community, as fans and office workers flood forums to discuss his upcoming siege. The hype is so intense that when our protagonist launches his stream 4 hours earlier than scheduled, the viewer count explodes instantly despite the awkward timing. People are tuning in from school and work just to see the world's first archer attempt a siege challenge. Our boy greets the chaotic chat with a calm smile, explaining that he started early because he expects the game might run long today. As he dives into the game world, the atmosphere is heavy with the drums of war. Our hero appears at the head of a massive battlefield wearing a new blue cloak and a dark quiver on his back. He is flanked by mercenary Captain Roman, who seems even friendlier than usual. Roman playfully teases him about his close relationship with Lady Amelia, who is watching from the castle ramparts. This playful dynamic confuses the veteran viewers who remember Roman as a perpetually grumpy NPC, but it highlights how much our protagonist's actions have changed the game's social landscape. The lighthearted moment ends quickly as a soldier blows a war horn, signaling a full-scale cavalry charge. While the armies clash in a roar of steel and hoofbeats, a system notification offers Sang-hyun the choice to hand over troop command to the NPC. He accepts, freeing himself to focus on a more specialized objective. Our guy looks directly into his streaming interface and declares his intention to assassinate the enemy leader in the golden armor. This bold claim triggers a mission donation from a viewer named Shy Napoleon, who offers 10,000 won for every single kill Sang-hyun manages to land. Realizing this could turn into a massive payout, our hero accepts the challenge, though he jokingly warns the donor that they must be very rich to make such a gamble. To maximize his efficiency and the entertainment value of the stream, Almond decides to move stealthily through the tall grass alone. He peeks through bushes to track the enemy's movements, while reflecting on advice from Acorn Jelly about the importance of mission donations. Because he has 80 arrows in his quiver, he calculates that he could potentially earn 1,000,000 won if every shot finds a mark. He views this not just as a mission, but as a way to maintain the pace of the stream and keep the audience engaged through prolonged fighting. The engagement begins with a series of silent, long-distance shots that pick off enemy soldiers before they even realize they are under attack. The confusion in the enemy ranks is absolute because the perfect shot mechanic makes it nearly impossible to track the trajectory of the arrows. When a sergeant tries to rally the troops and keep them moving, Sang-hyun silences him with a point-blank shot to the head. This display of lethal precision eventually reveals his location, as a soldier spots him in the southwest bushes and alerts the commander. Instead of running, our protagonist remains calm and counts out exactly 20 arrows, driving them into the ground in front of him. He tells the shocked chat that since 20 soldiers are charging his position, he will prepare exactly 20 shots. What follows is a masterpiece of virtual archery. As the soldiers move through the forest, Almond triggers his consecutive shooting skill. A rapid montage of blue glowing arrows streaks through the air, hitting every soldier in the head with clinical speed. In a matter of seconds, all 20 attackers are lying dead on the ground, and a system countdown marks the end of his skill streak. Sang-hyun stands alone with his glowing bow, noting that he has already earned 230,000 won from that single encounter. The efficiency is so terrifying that the remaining enemy forces are left scrambling for reinforcements. Back in the real world, his editor Seo-jia watches the monitor with a blushing, happy expression. She is captivated by his unwavering self-confidence and the fact that his genius isn't based on simple belief, but on proven success. She realizes that this is exactly why people are falling for him, as he perfectly represents the image of a true master that people aspire to. As the stream continues, a flood of new donations pours in from fans who are completely sold on his performance. Almond draws his bow with absolute focus, releasing an arrow that streaks across the field to strike a fleeing soldier in the back of the head. This clinical execution triggers a golden system notification for 40 consecutive kills, prompting the stream chat to joke that since there are no survivors left, this technically counts as a successful assassination. Our hero calmly checks his quiver and notes that he has exactly 40 arrows left, a realization that coincides with a desperate donation from a viewer named Shinapoleon. Because the mission rewards have scaled so aggressively, the donor is now begging for mercy and asking to be killed instead, realizing his payout has hit 400,001 much faster than expected. The scale of the massacre finally reaches the enemy leadership, where a commander in gold armor watches in total shock. He finds it unbelievable that a single archer wiped out 20 of his men and immediately orders a big deployment of 40 soldiers to the front to stop the bleeding. As the infantry charges forward, the chat reveals that Shinapoleon actually has over 1,000,001 in his account, making his previous whining look like a drop in the bucket. Back in his room, the real-world Yu Sang-hyun is in disbelief at the mention of such a huge sum. This financial motivation sharpens his resolve, and he tells the audience that if the funds are there, he will aim to collect exactly 1,000,001. Driven by this goal, our protagonist triggers his consecutive shooting skill as a rain of arrows descends on the enemy line. Despite the frantic calls for the soldiers to maintain formation, Almond's arrows find their marks with terrifying efficiency. The chaos becomes so intense that even the viewers begin to worry, urging him to take cover because moving while using this specific skill usually ruins accuracy. However, Almond ignores these conventional rules and performs a high-speed dash just as an enemy arrow strikes the spot where he stood a second before. He maneuvers through the battlefield with a dynamic mid-air pose, landing a counter shot that deflects an incoming projectile before ending the enemy archer's life. By the time the clearing falls silent, the forest is littered with bodies. Our boy stands among the fallen and updates the chat that his current earnings have reached 710,001. The few remaining enemy mercenaries are paralyzed by fear, realizing the speed of his archery is inhuman. One survivor attempts to flee in a panic, but Almond is already tracking him. Just as he prepares the final shot, he realizes his quiver is empty after 80 high-intensity shots. While the donor celebrates this narrow escape, Almond refuses to let the mission end on a cliffhanger. He dashes after the fleeing soldier and, in a display of brutal efficiency, snatches an arrow out of a dead body's head to knock it into his bow. The final arrow finds its mark, sealing the mission with a total massacre of 60 enemies. A mission accomplished banner flickers on the screen, and Shinapoleon follows through by donating the full 1,000,001, though he admits the loss is painful. While Almond thanks him for the massive support, the victory feels hollow within the game's narrative. As the dust settles at the castle, the regular army soldiers begin cheering for a knight named Sir Robern, crediting his leadership for the win. The chat is furious at the injustice, pointing out that Almond did all the heavy lifting while the knights simply watched. Even the usually stoic protagonist looks dejected, noting that killing 100 enemies apparently wasn't enough to get noticed. The tension shifts from the battlefield to the payroll when Captain Roman approaches Almond with a look of deep frustration. He apologizes for the way the knights treat mercenaries, explaining that Sir Robern and his men intend to pay only the basic wage despite the massive contribution of the mercenary units. When Roman tries to protest, Sir Robern overhears him and looks back with a cold, elitist sneer. The knight mocks the very idea of mercenary performance, claiming that while knights fight for their lives, mercenaries only care about protecting their own skin. This blatant insult causes Roman to clench his fist in a silent rage, while Almond stands quietly in the background, observing the blatant disrespect from the commander. Our boy internally acknowledges that this is a common stereotype. He knows it's a total prejudice. Because mercenaries must build trust to survive as a business, they actually have to fight properly from the start. Roman stands there unable to reply at first, but his expression turns serious as he stares up at the knight. He points out that it isn't very honorable to throw away their respect as soon as the war ends, especially since he thought their skills were recognized. To defend his team, Roman gestures toward Almond and reveals that the young man alone killed 100 enemies. He asks if the knight still thinks they did nothing. Sir Robern reacts with mocking laughter, and his fellow knights join in, finding the idea of an archer killing 100 men to be a hysterical joke. The stream chat reacts to this injustice with anger, with some fans joking about killing Robern on the spot. Roman clenches his fist so tightly it trembles, but he keeps his frustration in because the difference in status is too great. He looks back at Almond with a pained expression, but a sudden commotion cuts him off. A figure in intricate golden armor walks forward with an air of authority. Almond notices the person has an arrogant, noble vibe and realizes they must be high status because even Robern looks terrified and starts sweating. The armored person ignores Robern's stuttering excuses and criticizes the gendarme for taking the castle without shame. When they spot Almond and Roman in the field, they approach our boy directly. The commander asks if he is a knight, but Roman steps in to clarify that he is a mercenary. This causes the armored figure to stare intensely at our hero, asking if he truly is the one who secured 100 kills alone. So Robin tries to dismiss this as a joke, mocking the idea of an archer hiding behind others while achieving such a feat. The armored person looks at the knights and calls them foolish for their lack of belief. They reach up to remove their helmet, asking Almond if he really plans on working with people who don't recognize his worth. As long dark blue hair is revealed, the chat realizes the commander is a beautiful woman with sharp blue eyes. It is Rosanita, the second heroine of the game. She offers him a job right then and there, causing the chat to explode because she is appearing in Tolerant territory. A system selection menu appears in front of Almond with two choices. He can say he is honored by her recognition, or state that he has already sworn loyalty to another. Our protagonist looks deeply conflicted as he recognizes the effort the developers put into Rosanita's design. While the chat is divided and pressuring him to choose, Almond thinks about his progress with Amelia. He feels an attachment to her since they've been together from the start. Just as Rosanita demands an answer, our guy taps the logout button and ends the stream on a massive cliffhanger. While the fans in the chat are left howling in frustration, the perspective shifts to the real world where Joo-hyuk is meticulously analyzing the channel's growth. He realizes that these manic fans, despite their cursing, are the ones driving the channel's momentum across various communities. His data analysis reveals that while male viewers donate more frequently, female viewers provide the highest total revenue. He starts planning to shift their next project to a game distributed by Funk, but his professional focus is shattered when his father bursts into his room in a fury. The director of Joo-hyuk's former company called his father to report the resignation, and the elder man is embarrassed by the blow to his image. Under the weight of his father's terrifying glare, Joo-hyuk is forced to submit and agree to return to the family business the next morning. Left alone in his room, Joo-hyuk experiences a moment of profound sadness, wondering if his week of hope and hope was just a beautiful, fleeting dream. He sits at his computer one last time with tears in his eyes, feeling that the dream lasted too long to let go of easily. The next morning, Sang-hyun is jolted awake by his doorbell ringing at an ungodly hour. He stumbles through his dark apartment, wondering who could be visiting so early. When he opens the door, he finds a sweating Joo-hyuk standing there with a suitcase. Before our hero can even process the sight, Joo-hyuk lets out a relieved laugh and announces that he has officially left his house to commit to their dream for real. Later, the two men settle into a celebratory dinner of crispy fried chicken. While Joo-hyuk enthusiastically enjoys a beer, our hero remains disciplined and refuses to drink because he has a stream scheduled later. This level of self-control impresses his friend, though it doesn't stop the manager from finishing both cans himself. As they eat, Sang-hyun finally asks why his friend chose this specific moment to move out. The question is a bit heavy, so Joo-hyuk avoids eye contact and asks to explain the complicated family details later. Luckily, our protagonist is understanding and grants him the space he needs, officially welcoming him to crash at the apartment since there is enough room for both of them. The conversation eventually shifts back to business, specifically the massive cliffhanger in Kingdom Age. Joo-hyuk warns our boy that he is currently at a dangerous love crossroad between the two heroines, Emilia and Rosanita. Sang-hyun is initially indifferent and questions if the choice even matters, which sends Joo-hyuk into a total state of shock. He thrusts his smartphone forward to show the community forums where fans are making wild threats of execution and bloodbaths depending on which team our hero picks. One user even threatens to find Almond's IP address if he makes the wrong choice. Instead of being intimidated by the toxic debate, our protagonist simply smirks at the chaos and acknowledges the wild reactions. Joo-hyuk is baffled by this calmness, wondering if this is the legendary athlete's mindset. While drinking from a blue can, Sang-hyun raises the concern that Kingdom Age is nearing its end, and they haven't picked a follow-up game yet. He wants to maintain his current momentum while drawing in new viewers with a game that satisfies the existing audience. Joo-hyuk reveals his elite preparation by opening a laptop to showcase a tactical game called Battle Rage. He explains that it is a high-stakes 100-player survival PvP, where the goal is to be the last man standing using various weapons. Since the game requires top-tier aim and split-second decisions, he believes it fits our hero's recent trends perfectly. When Sang-hyun suggests practicing first to learn the unfamiliar gun mechanics, Joo-hyuk shouts in a sudden outburst of disagreement. He argues that the audience doesn't just want good gameplay. They want to see an unrivaled genius who can dominate on day one without any preparation, just like he did with his first archery stream. To prove that Sang-hyun is capable of this, Joo-hyuk asks about his training scores. Our boy reveals that he has been clearing the capsule's built-in agility and direction simulations on the hardest difficulty every day. When Joo-hyuk checks the global rankings for Sang-hyun's optimization code, he freezes in total disbelief. It turns out our hero is ranked number 1 in the world with 12,000 points. This confirms that his talent isn't just limited to archery, but that he is a natural genius across the board. This revelation energizes Joo-hyuk, who cheers excitedly and punches the air before insisting they register for Battle Rage immediately. Back inside the capsule, Sang-hyun prepares to start his stream earlier than usual to test which time slots pull in the most viewers. Joo-hyuk wishes him luck, though the two share a bit of playful banter before the capsule lid closes. As the full dive initializes with blue digital light, our hero returns to the battlefield where the beautiful commander Rosanita is still waiting for his answer. Almond realizes this choice will dictate the entire direction of his playthrough, but he decides to stay true to his journey. He calmly tells Rosanita that while he is flattered, his loyalty is already sworn to another. This choice triggers a massive celebration among Team Amelia in the chat, while Rosanita fans mourn the loss. Despite the rejection, Rosanita offers a soft smile and acknowledges that he has more honor than most knights before she is led away by armored guards. Almond stands alone in the field, reflecting on how choosing her would have made the story run longer, but he feels now is the right time to switch games. His internal thoughts are interrupted by Lady Amelia calling his name. He turns to find her standing in the field, looking at him with a tearful, joyful smile. Despite the warnings from her guards about the lingering danger on the battlefield, she ignores everything and lunges forward, pulling our hero into a tight, emotional hug. Since our hero finally secured the victory, he suggests it's time to head home, prompting the live stream chat to explode in a mix of shipping frenzy and genuine shock. The atmosphere is so thick with romantic tension that even the usually cynical viewers are convinced this isn't just a game anymore. As the two lean in close, their faces inches apart, the screen suddenly cuts to black. This tactical cliffhanger causes the chat to spiral into total chaos, with fans screaming in disappointment as the game seemingly skips the most anticipated moment of the entire route. The narrative shifts to the group traveling at sunset, where the reality of Almond's legendary feat begins to sink in. A knight pulls up alongside our protagonist to verify the rumors of his 100-kill streak, calling him truly amazing. While Almond remains modest and credits the frontline mercenaries for the win, Captain Roman can't help but scoff at the knight's sudden change of heart. He points out that they are only acting friendly now because they previously refused to believe his skill. Despite his usual grumpiness, Roman offers a rare, soft-spoken thank you to our boy. He reveals that because of Almond's performance, every mercenary earned enough to relax for 4 months. This display of genuine friendship confuses the longtime viewers, who joke that the real Roman must have been replaced by a demon in a human mask. Upon arriving at Lord Genere's sprawling castle, the tone transitions from a war drama to an awkward family dinner. Emilia introduces Almond as a precious guest, leading him into a big hall to meet her father. Our protagonist is immediately hit with the weight of the situation, realizing he is finally meeting the man who holds his future in his hands. Surprisingly, Lord Genere is far from a judging noble. He welcomes the man of the hour with open arms and a joyful slap on the shoulder. He immediately orders his servants to bring out the food, which heightens our boy's nerves as he worries about the social expectations of a high-ranking household. The comfort is short-lived as a system notification appears, officially triggering a high-stakes dinner minigame. Because mercenaries aren't known for their table manners, the game forces Almond into a frantic rhythm-based event to avoid embarrassment. He finds himself staring at a water bowl and matching hand-washing symbols as notes fly across the screen. This sudden shift into a rhythm-dating sim hybrid leaves the chat howling with laughter as they watch our hero try to maintain his composure while performing a perfect score. Whether it's solving a jigsaw puzzle of a meat dish or matching shapes to eat stew, the game makes it clear that in Kingdom Age, even a simple meal is a battlefield. Back in the real world, Sang-hyun lies slumped in his chair, feeling more mentally drained by this dinner than he ever was by the actual siege. The dinner reaches a turning point when Lord Genere sets down his cup and offers Almond a position as a knight. This rare quest path stuns the community, as the knight route has never progressed this quickly for any other streamer. As 2 blue selection boxes flicker on the screen, Almond faces a major crossroad: accept the honor of knighthood or stick to the wandering life of a mercenary. He realizes that choosing Emilia has pushed the game much further than he expected. Just as the tension reaches its limit, Almond pulls his signature move and abruptly logs off, ending the stream on another massive cliffhanger and leaving his fans in a state of comedic rage. Stepping out of his capsule, Sang-hyun reflects on how much smoother things go when he isn't fighting for his life. His manager, Joo-hyuk, quickly arrives with data-backed evidence that the stream was a massive success, with community forums already trending with posts about the father-in-law event. More importantly, Joo-hyuk delivers the big news that the major game distributor Punk has officially greenlit the budget for Jia's salary. This partnership marks a turning point for Almond's career, especially since getting an official offer feels much more stable than just a casual suggestion. The news of the partnership spreads through the gaming world like wildfire, with news articles labeling the rookie archer as world-class. While some students and skeptics wonder why a massive company would sign a streamer with only 1,000 viewers, others point out that Almond essentially revived Kingdom Age single-handedly. Punk is currently trying to aggressively counter its competitors by focusing on exclusive marketing and partnered programs, making our hero a vital asset. As the community debates whether he should abandon his current game for bigger titles, the anticipation builds for his next move. After a series of formal meetings and contract signings, the moment finally arrives for Allman to launch his first official broadcast under the Punk banner. The chat room is packed with fans who have been waiting through the static, curious about his next move. The screen flashes blue, and after a bold graphic intro, Allman appears with his signature friendly smile. He introduces himself with a newfound sense of authority, ready to transition from a rookie archer to a professional representative of the gaming world. Yu Sang-hyun launches a formal video announcement to introduce his new AllTube channel. He starts by offering a friendly greeting and expresses his deep gratitude to the fans, noting that their support is the only reason he secured such a major deal. While viewers and office workers across the city react with shock to the news of a rookie landing a corporate giant like Punk, our hero focuses on his content rollout. He explains that his editor, Seo is already hard at work remastering his legendary perfect shot clips and previous montages for the grand opening. As he promises more exciting content, the gaming community descends into a frenzy, with forum comments flooding the screen in total disbelief over his rapid rise to the top. To celebrate the successful launch, Sang-hyun and his manager, Joo-hyuk, settle into a booth at a local restaurant for a feast of fried chicken. Joo-hyuk praises his friend's hard work, though he feels a bit of regret that Jia couldn't join their company dinner. Our protagonist remains grounded, viewing it as just a casual meal out, but he is genuinely impressed when Joo-hyuk points out that Jia managed to edit 3 high-quality videos in just 2 days. Sang-hyun clarifies that she actually worked on those in her spare time before she was even officially hired. This realization leaves Joo-hyuk floored, as he can't understand why someone so dedicated acted so indifferent during their initial job offer. The peaceful meal is suddenly threatened when our boy tries to ask Joo-hyuk about the real reason he left his family home. Before he can finish the question, Joo-hyuk spots a group of men entering the restaurant and pales. Because the restaurant is located near their former workplace at Asung, their old team, led by the toxic manager Park, has just arrived for a meal. Joo-hyuk tries to force Sang-hyun to hide under the table so they can slip out unnoticed, but it's unfortunately too late. Manager Park spots them immediately and approaches with a mocking grin, eager to see if his useless former employees are still unemployed. The encounter becomes tense as Manager Park attempts to assert his old authority, demanding that Sang-hyun show respect and greet his former boss. While Joo-hyuk sweats and tries to maintain a polite facade, our hero remains remarkably calm. He looks the manager in the eye and bluntly asks why he should bother greeting someone he isn't on good terms with. This defiance leaves Park fuming, as he screams about Sang-hyun being an outcast who doesn't understand how society works. Despite the loud shouting and the stares from other customers, our protagonist simply smirks, pointing out the hypocrisy of a man who preaches politeness while pestering people at their private dinner table. Just as the argument reaches a breaking point and Sang-hyun stands up to tower over the red-faced manager, a friendly voice interrupts the scene. Director Oh from Punk enters the restaurant and greets Sang-hyun with open arms, loudly praising the incredible view counts on his new videos. He mentions that the directors at Punk are so thrilled with the performance that they want to schedule a formal meal with our hero soon. This revelation acts like a physical blow to Manager Park, who is horrified to learn that the man he called a parachute hire is now a high-value partner for a gargantuan company like Punk. The power dynamic shifts instantly as the surrounding customers recognize our boy as the famous streamer Almond and begin asking for his autograph. Surrounded by fans and the prestige of his new contract, Sang-hyun politely signs for the crowd, while Manager Park grits his teeth in a silent rage. Realizing he has lost all ground, the manager screams at his team to leave the restaurant immediately, abandoning their order in a fit of humiliation. After they flee, Joo-hyuk and Sang-hyun thank Director Oh for his timely intervention. While the director admits he exaggerated the excited director's bit to scare off the bullies, he reveals a surprising truth. He wasn't lying about the meal request or the views. Sang-hyun's first video has already become a viral sensation, proving that our hero's career is moving even faster than his arrows. Because of a high-level briefing with a blunt executive, Yu Sang-hyun is forced to face the harsh reality of the streaming industry. The executive explains that popularity on Treevee doesn't necessarily translate to success on AllTube, insisting that a creator needs to upload at least 20 videos to identify any sort of profit trend. This professional warning makes the recent performance of our hero's official channel feel like a genuine miracle. Back at home, a sweating Sang-hyun stares at his smartphone in disbelief while brushing his teeth. Despite his low expectations, the statistics for his first 3 AllTube videos show they have already amassed over 50,000 views each in just one day. He recalls hearing that even the #1 streamer on Treevee, Bubblegum, failed on this platform, which makes his own situation feel like a ridiculous fluke. Sang-hyun vigorously brushes his teeth while he realizes this victory is largely due to the advice of his manager, Joo-hyuk. This success is a direct result of the viral montages created by Seo. Even before she was officially hired, her dignity of a sniper video drew massive attention to his gameplay. While taking a slow sip of coffee, Sang-hyun feels fortunate for her impact. Meanwhile, Joo-hyuk shares a laugh over the fact that their former toxic boss, Manager Park, is currently fuming. Because Director Oh from Punk backed them up, the old office bullies are convinced our boy is being protected by a powerful big shot. The peaceful morning transitions into a routine as Sang-hyun heads out for a jog. Even though he is retired from professional sports, he refuses to let himself slack off, especially after a night of chicken and beer. His rhythmic pace is interrupted by a loud ringtone and a frantic phone call from Joo-hyuk. The manager screams at him for ignoring messages. Joo-hyuk reveals that the view counts are so unusual that a Punk director has requested a formal meal. Beyond business, Joo-hyuk suggests they should express their gratitude to Jia with a gift, given that she is the cornerstone of their success. The opportunity arises immediately when Sang-hyun spots Jia jogging toward him in the park. Later, the two settle into a newly opened burger joint for a meal. While our hero worries that a hamburger is too cheap for someone who worked so hard, Jia insists it is fine. The atmosphere becomes hilariously awkward when Jia takes a massive bite of her burger, leaving Sang-hyun stunned by her silent, focused intensity. While the two sitting in complete silence as a crow caws in the background, Jia eventually mentions that it will be hard for her to eat if he keeps staring, causing an embarrassed Sang-hyun to apologize. To break the stagnant silence, he attempts small talk, but Jia's short, blunt replies lead the conversation nowhere. Eventually, she admits she is simply not very good at talking, noting that she only speaks well when it's about work or when she's drunk. Sang-hyun responds with deep sincerity, explaining that he understands the difficulty of suppressed feelings from his own time in a toxic office. He encourages her to share her story whenever she finally feels comfortable, a gesture that leaves Jia feeling moved by his maturity. The narrative shifts back to the virtual world as a new stream begins. The chat is flooded with Alha greetings as fans congratulate him on his official partnership with Punk. Sang-hyun addresses his audience and makes two big announcements. He is now an official partner, and today he will finally decide the fate of his character in Kingdom Age. Despite the fans' curiosity about future games, our hero chooses to follow the night route, triggering a majestic ceremony. In the middle of a heavy snowfall in the castle courtyard, Lady Amelia officially appoints him as her knight. The scene is filled with a sense of completion as she rests a ceremonial blade on his shoulder and smiles radiantly. While the chat gushes over the beauty of the ending, a sudden time skip occurs. Sang-hyun finds himself in a majestic library, now dressed in a luxurious green and gold knight's uniform. However, the piece is short-lived as the screen begins to crackle with intense orange flames. A final quest scroll unrolls and bursts into fire, revealing a message that sends a surge of digital energy through our protagonist's body. Because he has claimed his title, he must now face one final trial to prove his worth as a knight, marking the beginning of the end for his journey in this world. This causes a bit of confusion since he assumed the title was already his. Before he can even process the notification, a servant boy bursts through his doors in a total panic. Because our hero isn't even dressed yet, the servant begins frantically gesturing and screaming that he'll be late for a competition. Almond has no idea what he's talking about, leading the servant to jokingly ask if he smoked opium the day before. The stream chat finds this hilarious, but the situation turns serious as the servant begins physically checking our boy to determine the legitimacy of his title. Luckily, they run into Lady Amelia. The servant is terrified that she heard him complaining, but she ignores the help and leans in to kiss Almond. This sudden reward shocks both the hero and his viewers, though our protagonist eventually justifies it by noting their relationship has naturally progressed to this point. Amelia looks him in the eye and warns him that if he fails this competition, their future together is at risk. Because she has complete faith in him, they head to a massive stone arena nearby where a crowd is already waiting. Unfortunately, a mocking noble named Count Alberto is there to greet them. He sneers at the Genere family for taking in a commoner and questions the validity of a knight without noble lineage. The stream chat immediately recognizes him as a recurring villain from other game routes and expresses a collective desire to see him defeated. When Alberto dismisses Almond's past achievements as unproven rumors, Amelia tries to defend him by bringing up the fall of Talorant. This only makes the Count more aggressive, leading him to scream at her for insulting a high-ranking noble in front of a nobody. Almond decides to step in and reassure Amelia, telling her not to worry. He stands tall and reveals that he was actually the one who suggested this competition to prove himself. As he enters the dusty arena, the crowd erupts into chants of his name. Count Alberto mocks him one last time, asking about the rules of the match before revealing the true challenge. He claims a true knight should be able to face a troll alone and releases a massive muscular monster from behind iron gates. The spectators are terrified because trolls are notorious for their ability to regenerate, meaning a bow shouldn't be effective against them. The chat even suggests he might need a mace or a slicing weapon to deal enough damage. While the nobles suddenly vanish from their box to seek safety, Almond remains alone in the arena with the beast. He notices the troll isn't attacking immediately, so he takes the opportunity to draw an arrow. Despite the chat's skepticism, he fires a single shot that pierces the monster's chest. This creates a massive explosion of blood that leaves the entire stadium in silence. Because he used a perfect shot, the troll dies instantly, bypassing the regeneration mechanic entirely. Count Alberto is so stunned he can only stare with his mouth open, while the chat laughs at how our hero's basic attack is essentially an ultimate move. This victory secures his honor, and the scene transitions to a grand wedding ceremony where a blushing Amelia celebrates their union in a bridal gown. As the credits roll, Sang-hyun reflects on how this first virtual reality game has changed his life over the span of just 1 week. Back in his dark gaming capsule, he acknowledges that Kingdom Age is truly over and decides it's time to move on. His fans are already suggesting new games, specifically PvP titles where he would have to face real people instead of AI. Our protagonist feels a surge of pressure because he knows human opponents won't go easy on a newbie, and his reputation as a genius could easily be destroyed if he fails. However, he refuses to stay still out of fear. He looks into the camera with a confident grin and announces that his next challenge will be Battle Large. Before starting the next phase of his career, Yoo Sung-hyun sits down for a meal with his manager, Joo-hyuk. They sit at a kitchen table surrounded by a holographic projector and fried chicken, where Joo-hyuk expresses deep concern about the transition. He worries that fans of Kingdom Age will abandon the stream once the game changes, but Sang-hyun takes a sip of his soda and remains calm. Our boy explains that losing half of his viewers is a standard risk for variety streamers, but it is a necessary move because audiences eventually lose interest in creators who don't show growth. The reality of this shift hits home back in the present as the stream continues. Sang-hyun smiles for the camera, yet internally he feels a sharp sting as his viewer count rapidly drops from 2,000 to just over 1,100. He manages to stay positive by telling himself this was expected, especially since he still has to wait for Battle Large to finish downloading. The chat is filled with shock that he is a complete beginner who hasn't even pre-installed the game, leading to a flurry of messages about how rare it is to see a total newbie in such a realistic title. During the wait, a donor named Affogato gives him a heads up that Battle Large is grounded in the real world and is quite different from Kingdom Age. This information makes Sang-hyun reflect on his experience with the real Olympic simulation, which makes him more excited than nervous. Once the system confirms the download is complete, our protagonist enters the game. He is immediately transported into a military helicopter flying through a cloudy sunset, surrounded by the deafening roar of rotor blades. Inside the aircraft, a tactical soldier yells for the group to prepare for the drop. Sang-hyun looks down at his black combat boots and realizes his legs are shaking violently from the realism of the height. While the aerial view of the town below is breathtaking, the sheer drop is terrifying. When the soldier screams at him to jump, our hero hesitates, prompting the chat to mock his fear. Eventually, he is forced out into the sky, tumbling in a total panic while other players shout with excitement. Because he only watched a tutorial video and didn't expect the physical sensation to be this intense, Sang-hyun grapples with his parachute cords as he plummets. Luckily, the chute opens automatically, allowing him to catch his breath, though he quickly realizes he is falling too fast. He hits the ground with a massive dust cloud and a pained groan, rolling across the sand. The viewers laugh at his clumsy landing, but the peaceful moment is short-lived as the camera reveals a ruined city where players are already engaged in brutal fistfights. Two nearby players spot his awkward arrival and immediately target him, shouting that a noob has landed. Sang-hyun scrambles away on all fours in terror, wondering if his low level is visible to everyone. The chat clarifies that his landing gave him away, so he kicks open the door of a nearby white building to find a weapon. While panting inside, his eyes widen as he spots a compound bow sitting on a dusty table. Our protagonist recalls using these for fun during his days as a professional athlete, and feels a surge of confidence as his fingers grip the handle. Suddenly, a heavy sound from the outdoor stairs alerts him that his pursuers are moving to the second floor. A trio of players enters the hallway above, assuming Sang-hyun is still hiding on the first floor without any gear. Just as they begin to move through the hallway, an arrow pierces the leader's chest. The system announces the elimination, leaving the remaining two players in total shock. They realize their teammate was killed by a bow and attempt to retaliate, but our hero is too fast. Sang-hyun draws back again and fires an arrow that strikes the second player directly in the eye, triggering a double kill. The third player decides to run away rather than face the sniper, leading to a debate in the chat about whether to give chase. Because the group was teaming in a solo match, Sang-hyun decides to hunt him down. The last man comes from behind, who desperately tries to use a bow he found to defend himself. Our guy fires a point-blank shot to secure the triple kill, noting that the enemy likely thought copying his weapon would save them. The chat explodes with laughter and praise for the way he dismantled the team, though some veterans point out that his opponents were likely low-level due to his own fresh matchmaking rank. Sang-hyun smiles at the interface and prepares to start farming with more confidence, but a jagged vibrating sound interrupts him. A golden notification fills the sky, warning him that the blue zone will shrink in 30 seconds, signaling that the safe area is moving. In a survival game like Battle Large, Many players think hiding in one spot is a smart way to wait out the competition. However, the game uses a blue zone system to prevent this by shrinking a massive digital dome over the map. Because anyone outside the boundary takes continuous damage and eventually dies, Sang-hyun realizes he's in a bad spot when a system notification warns that the zone will shrink in 30 seconds. He peeks through a window and sees other players running away, which forces him to hurry out into the ruins as well. The terrain is mostly crumbling stone with very few places to hide, so our boy tries to move carefully. The silence is suddenly broken by the roar of a car engine, and he ducks behind a low wall while hoping the driver just passes him by. Unfortunately, a bullet strikes the stone right next to his head, followed by a hail of gunfire that sends sparks and dust flying. This jump scare leaves our hero breathless and startled, causing his chat to laugh at his panicked expression. He feels a bit embarrassed and tries to justify his reaction by reminding everyone that this is his first game, but the viewers are too busy enjoying the cute moment. The situation gets worse as the car speeds toward him, forcing him to sprint away from the wall. He realizes the enemy is using the vehicle to close the distance, but he is shocked when their bullets actually destroy the corner of the wall he was using as cover. He slides behind a more durable stone pillar just in time to avoid another volley. From this position, he spots an enemy in camouflage gear who is frustrated that his assault rifle isn't landing hits. The enemy screams for Almond to stop struggling and come out, but our protagonist stays low and waits. Sang-hyun notices another group of 3 players standing by a jeep, and his chat immediately realizes these people are teaming in what was supposed to be a solo match. He doesn't let the injustice distract him and prepares a shot with his compound bow. He fires an arrow that lands with a loud impact, instantly eliminating one of the attackers. Because the enemies aren't wearing helmets, the kill is easy. The remaining teammates are shocked by the one-shot kill, but before they can figure out that bows deal high default damage, Almond fires again and takes out a second player. The last teammate runs behind a rock in fear and screams that Almond must be a high-level player who deranked to farm kills. Our hero ignores the insults and uses the sound of the man's voice to pin down his exact location. He aims his bow high into the sky and releases an arrow that streaks into the clouds before descending perfectly behind the rock. The enemy screams in agony as the arrow hits, and the chat is stunned by the high-level no-scope play. Almond smiles and thanks the guy for making so much noise, noting that he determines everything based on sound. He fires another shot that results in a knocked-out message instead of an elimination. This confuses Sang-hyun until he realizes he accidentally matched into a squad match, where players can be revived by teammates. He feels foolish for making such a basic mistake, but the mood shifts when a viewer named Solo Alliance donates 10,000 won and promises 100,000 more if he wins the match as a solo player. Our protagonist accepts the mission, but he quickly wonders why the enemy was only knocked out if his teammates were dead. Suddenly, a suppressed rifle fires from the shadows, and a bullet hits Sang-hyun. The impact feels incredibly real, throwing him back as blood splatters. He manages to roll across the sand and dive through a hole in a wooden wall to find temporary safety. As he sits panting, he notices his digital heart rate gauge is flashing red. This is a safety feature that forcefully logs players out if their vitals get too high, making him wonder if the game is always this risky or if something is wrong with his own biology. He hears footsteps approaching that his chat claims are silent. By focusing on the noise, he calculates that the enemy is moving slowly but steadily toward the fallen teammates to revive them. Because our hero knows they aren't looking for a fight yet, he waits for the perfect opening. He releases an arrow that hits the medic in the head, securing a double kill and ending the squad. As he exhales a long breath of relief, he notices several donations from new fans who are comparing his talent to a legendary player named Jeonjapa. While the chat debates his skill level, Sang-hyun feels encouraged that he is finally advancing on the path of a major streamer. He walks over to the bodies to see what loot they dropped and finds a black assault rifle with a suppressor and an optic. He stares at the gun reflecting in his eye, contemplating whether he should finally switch from his bow to a modern weapon. The stream interface shows a heavily divided chat, with some fans excited for a gun arc while others argue that a bow is his true identity. Some joke that using a modern weapon is more effective, while others threaten to cancel their support if he doesn't pick up the rifle. Our hero realizes that if he sticks with the bow and manages to win, he will solidify a unique image as a specialist bow streamer, a reputation he wants to carry over from his previous game. He worries that viewers might not be understanding if he loses simply because he refused a superior weapon. Just as the pressure mounts, a bright donation banner flashes from Seo Jia. She offers a 100,000 won mission for him to win using only the bow, which is perfect timing for our protagonist. He feels a bit lucky but also slightly concerned because Jia lives in his neighborhood, and he suspects she isn't financially well off. Despite his hesitation about accepting so much money, he realizes he needs this mission to progress the stream. He presses the accept button on his holographic screen and officially commits to the challenge. To prepare for the trek, Almond loots medicine and canned food, while the chat advises him to find a helmet at a nearby farm. He notes the farm is quite far, so he decides to take a dusty green SUV parked nearby. The SUV speeds across the desert, but the viewers warn him that driving straight into a dense area is a mistake because of the noise. Their prediction comes true almost instantly when a grenade bounces near the car and flips the vehicle in a massive explosion. Our boy lies upside down in the wreck, jokingly wondering if he qualifies for auto insurance, only for a second grenade to consume the screen in fire. The chat assumes the run is over, but Almond emerges from the smoke and dives into cover, panting but alive. He realizes the smoke is obstructing his vision, so he sprints and jumps onto a building rooftop. As soon as he reaches the ledge, bullets strike the wall near his head. A sniper in a helmet watches him from a distant hill and coordinates with two teammates to storm Almond's building while he provides cover fire. Our hero sits hunched on the roof, gripping his bow as gunfire impacts the concrete around him. He knows he is being ganged up on, but he focuses on staying calm and listening to his surroundings. He determines there are 4 enemies in total, with 2 currently approaching his position. The sniper believes Almond is trapped because moving would result in an instantaneous death. However, our guy remembers the trick shots he used to do for fun as a young archer. He adjusts his aim at a random-looking angle and releases an arrow that ricochets off the environment. The projectile strikes one of the approaching enemies in the shoulder, resulting in a sudden elimination. The chat is in total shock, wondering if the compound bow has auto-aim, while Almond reflects on how those childhood games ended up being beneficial. He notices the footsteps of the second approaching enemy and recognizes that a head-to-head match against a gun is a major disadvantage. He knows there isn't enough time to reload if he misses, but he refuses to leave his fate to chance. Before the enemy can even open the door, Almond leaps sideways through the air and fires an arrow downward through a tiny vertical crack in the structure. The arrow strikes the enemy in the stomach, leaving the attacker paralyzed in shock at how the shot could have possibly come through such a narrow gap. A golden elimination banner flashes across the screen as SpongeBob falls, leaving the stream audience in a state of absolute roar. Our boy managed to calculate the exact moment the door would open to fire through a tiny crack, so the chat is convinced they aren't watching a newbie, but a godmond. Almond tries to stay humble by calling it good timing, but viewers aren't buying it, jokingly comparing his luck to losing everything in the stock market. The protagonist sits on the roof with a bashful smile, while the scene shifts to a rocky cliff where 2 snipers, Patrick Star and Calamari, watch the building in a tense silence. They receive a desperate digital transmission from their downed teammate, SpongeBob, who warns them that Almond is far too skilled for their current rank. He explains that he was shot the instant he opened the door, a feat that leaves the teammates in disbelief. Calamari refuses to believe a single person could dismantle a squad so easily, assuming SpongeBob was simply careless. This squad isn't just a random group of players, they are Love Mondays, a clan represented by a yellow sponge emblem. The group consists of talented individuals, including the diamond-ranked sniper Calamari, and they even have experience in amateur competitions. Reality was unkind to them. One member was a struggling bar exam student while another faced similar hardships, which forced them to stop playing a year ago. Upon their return, their ranks were reset to the lowest level, bronze, which is why they've crossed paths with our hero. Back on the cliff, SpongeBob urges friends to hurry and revive him as he crawls toward the first floor. Calamari suspects our protagonist is using their teammate as bait to lure them out, questioning just how confident the archer must be. While Patrick Star suggests they simply ditch SpongeBob and run, Calamari's pride as a former elite player won't allow it. He snaps at friend, insisting that running away from a beginner-level game would destroy his reputation. This forced resolve leads them to ready their weapons and head toward the building. The two move through a desert trench, passing the fallen body of another teammate, Mr. Krabs. Calamari directs Patrick to maintain a slow, steady aim at the roof to keep Almond from popping out of cover. They feel a brief moment of relief as they reach the building's blind spot, but their peace is shattered by a sudden alert. Our protagonist releases an arrow from the rooftop, and though Calamari thinks they've successfully dodged the projectile, a golden elimination banner reveals the truth. The arrow has pierced Patrick's head through his eye, eliminating him instantly. Stunned that an arrow could come from such an impossible angle, Calamari looks up to find our hero leaping from the roof ledge like a crazy piece of shit. Almond releases a final arrow in midair, securing a double kill and wiping out the remnants of the squad. After the chaos settles, the streamer sits heavily bandaged on the floor, admitting that the jump actually hurt despite the painkillers. The chat is in an uproar, calling him a crazy son of a bitch and questioning if he inhaled something other than medicine to think of such a risky tactic. While Almond prepares for the final 26 players as the blue zone begins to shrink, the narrative shifts to the real world. A dejected Calamari is shown in his room, slamming his keyboard in a fit of frustration. He uploads a clip of his defeat to the Battle Large community forum, titled, "This Complete Pro I Met in a Bronze-Ranked Game." Because he identifies himself as the former Diamond Rank player Calamari, his testimony carries weight, and the community begins to buzz with rumors that the archer is a high-level smurf. The forum post quickly leads investigators to Almond's livestream link. Back in the game, our boy is busy looting a wooden dresser, completely unaware that he is the center of a community-wide manhunt. He notices a sudden spike in his viewer count, which has surged to 1905 people. While he tries to hide a happy twitch of his expression and maintain control, he realizes the tone of the chat has turned aggressive. New viewers are reporting him for smurfing and threatening to end his career, leaving our protagonist staring blankly at the screen in total confusion as the atmosphere of his stream turns weird. Almond initially hopes the attention is good, but quickly spots aggressive messages accusing him of smurfing, the practice of high-ranked players picking on beginners. A forum post goes viral, claiming our hero is a professional gamer hiding behind a fresh account. Although the accusations are based on a misunderstanding of his raw talent, the backlash is immediate, with several viewers reporting the channel and mocking his supposed smurfing days. Our protagonist looks at his holographic stream interface with a startled, sweating expression, wondering if viewers really came from a forum post. Despite the confusion and mockers explaining what a smurf is, he decides to think positively. He figures that if people watch him play, they will eventually see the truth, and he trusts Juhyuk to handle the logistics. Luckily, his focus is pulled back to the game by a system notification warning that the blue zone is shrinking. Sharp gunshots echo through the desert ruins, signaling that fighting is becoming more frequent as players are pushed closer together. Knowing he needs to stay ahead of the boundary, our boy steps firmly onto the sand and begins to move. The chat encourages him to keep using the bow, while the feed flashes with news of 5 players dying instantly. This leaves only 10 people remaining, a fact that surprises our protagonist as he crouches behind a concrete wall. He moves quietly through a building, hoping to run into players whose teammates have already been eliminated. But as he rounds a corner, he suffers a violent collision with another player. This accidental bump leaves him dazed, and his eyes widen as he sees a gun muzzle gleaming with a lens flare right in front of him. The enemy cocks the weapon, and 3 shots explode across the screen. Our hero dives for cover with a pained grunt, immediately taking a dynamic pose to draw an arrow back with intense focus. He hides behind a wall, listening to approaching footsteps. He waits for the perfect moment of overconfidence, and as the attacker rounds the corner, Almond releases his bowstring with a creak. An arrow strikes, hitting the enemy in the head and causing a red flash of impact. The downed player's teammate looks on in shock, shouting that there's a sniper nearby. Almond peeks through a ruined doorway, watching 2 enemies in a trench. Because they took the bait, our boy realizes being solo has its advantages. He stands tall and draws his bow, releasing a shot that slams into an enemy. The hit is so strong that a system alert flashes for equipment damage, causing the enemy to yell in pain about his helmet's durability. The 2 enemies, including a player named Octopus, hunker down in a dirt pit, wondering who would use a bow this late in the game. Just as Octopus complains about the annoyance, a massive sound effect fills the screen as an arrow slams into him from high above. A system notification confirms he is knocked out, leaving his teammate, Baby Octopus, looking up in terror. Before the survivor can figure out the angle of the shot, another arrow streaks through the air. In a matter of seconds, 2 elimination banners appear as Almond wipes out both players. Our hero lowers his bow with a neutral expression, surprised they died so quickly. The chat reacts with awe, joking that physics makes you better at PvP and acknowledging that it isn't the bow that's good, but the man holding it. Suddenly, another player is eliminated elsewhere, leaving only 4 people left in the match. Almond looks to the side, deep in thought, realizing that if the remaining 3 aren't on the same team, he can actually get first place. Unfortunately, the blue zone starts shrinking again, and our protagonist sighs at his bad luck. The chat mocks his unluckiness, while the mission rewards for winning with only a bow and winning a squad match solo are displayed. These high stakes make the donors nervous, with some jokingly praying to every deity to save their 50k won. Almond knows that while the map shrinking helps, snipers still have plenty of places to hide. He runs forward carrying his supplies only to be startled by a voice calling out. He peeks around a corner and sees a group of 3 players standing together. They are the final squad, mocking the fact that only 1 person is left. Our protagonist stays hidden, blushing slightly from the intensity of the 3v1 situation. The chat calls this hell difficulty, noting that this was predictable since he dove into a squad match alone. The enemies check their holographic maps, feeling confident that even the blue zone is on their side. As lightning flashes across the sky, Almond grips an arrow so tightly his hand trembles. He knows this moment separates a pretty good player from a superstar. He decides that since the enemies are lax due to their advantage, he will aim for the gap in their guard. He swallows a healing item, getting himself ready. The scene turns quiet as the enemies wait behind a rock, wondering if he is even there. Behind them, Almond is actually lying flat on the ground. As the glowing blue wall of the zone touches his boot, sparks fly and his skin turns blue-tinted from the electrical damage. He grits his teeth, his HP bar draining rapidly, but he tells himself to wait just a bit more. The enemies finally realize he must be behind them, but it is too late. Almond fires an arrow that pierces an enemy through the neck. A notification pops up as one player is knocked out and the others scream in a panic. Almond dives through a barrage of rifle fire, drawing his bow. He releases the string, and another blue streak across the battlefield eliminates a second enemy named Ducky Huns. The blue zone continues to consume him, causing him to yell in pain, but he finally emerges and collapses onto his knees in the dirt. He is panting heavily, having survived the encounter with only 10% of his health left. The chat is in total shock at his performance, but Almond remains focused. He looks up with determined eyes, knowing there is exactly one person left. Almond remains low in the grass, eyes fixed on the final opponent. This survivor stayed silent while his teammates were being dismantled, so our boy recognizes he is dealing with a level-headed player, likely the deadly sniper noticed earlier in the kill logs. Luckily, the sniper hasn't fired yet, telling our protagonist that he is currently hidden in a blind spot. As he applies bandages to heal his remaining 10% health, a system notification warns that the blue zone is shrinking again. This forces a change in the field, as the previous knocked-out enemy is seen crawling through the brush. Initially, our hero suspects the enemy is trying to reach a teammate for a revival, but he quickly reevaluates the logic of the situation. He realizes that reviving a partner takes a significant amount of time during a high-stakes finale, so the enemy wouldn't take such a risk when victory is on the line. This leads him to conclude that the movement is actually a trick designed to lure him into the sniper's line of sight. To counter this, Almond lies completely flat in the grass, refusing to give away his position. He begins a slow, methodical crawl, sharp eyes searching for any glint of a scope or a rustle in the distance. Suddenly, an alert flashes in his mind. He has found him. The sniper is positioned on a distant hill, unaware that he is being watched. Our boy knows this is his only chance, but he faces a major technical hurdle. It is impossible to draw a compound bow while lying horizontally on his stomach. In a moment of pure creative desperation, he flips onto his back, causing the stream chat to explode with confusion. He pins the bow handle to the ground with his combat boot and uses his foot as leverage to draw the string back with both hands. This foot archery style, while physically grueling, allows him to stay below the grass line while aiming upward. With a grimace of effort, our protagonist releases the arrow. It streaks through the air like a blue comet and slams into the sniper's helmet with a thunderous impact, shattering the gear. Before the dazed enemy can finish a healing item, Almond sits up and launches a final vertical shot. The arrow pierces the sniper's head, resulting in a massive splatter of blood and a golden elimination banner. System messages confirm the impossible. Almond has secured first place in a solo squad match using only a bow. The victory triggers a massive wave of rewards and donations. Between the win a squad match alone and win using only a bow missions, our protagonist nets a total of 460,000 won in instant donations. Amidst the celebration, a 50,000 won donation from a user named Miho causes a frenzy in the chat. Miho is a famous high-tier streamer known for her celebrity looks, so the audience is stunned when she asks if Almond is looking for a clan. He politely declines, citing his need for more practice as a beginner, which earns him respect for his humility even as the chat calls him a future CEO-level player. After waving goodbye to his fans and ending the stream, Sanghyun logs out to find Joo-hyuk waiting with a phone. His manager is starstruck by Miho's beauty, though they both agree that rejecting the offer was a smart move to avoid getting compared to seasoned professionals too early. Unfortunately, the celebration is cut short by a dark turn on the Battle Large community forums. Almond's raw talent is so far beyond the average player, so he has been hit with a massive wave of smurfing reports from angry veterans. Things go from bad to worse when Sanghyun tries to log in only to find a black screen. His account has been suspended for rank manipulation. Joo-hyuk is initially in a red rage over the injustice, even throwing his laptop in a fit of anger, but he quickly pivots to a strategic mindset. He realizes that this static is actually a golden opportunity to garner more interest. Following his manager's lead, Sanghyun posts a formal announcement explaining the misunderstanding and the lack of response from the game's management. This move pays off immediately as his loyal fans from Kingdom Age begin spreading the word, painting him as a victim of a biased system. As the community debates how a newbie could possibly be this good, Gia sends a perfectly timed text. She has just finished an edited video titled "I Got Suspended as a Smurf on My First Match," set to premiere just as the controversy reaches its peak. While the title looks like typical clickbait, two young men at an internet cafe realize the news is legit because of the massive forum backlash from the previous day. Skeptical onlookers outside find themselves drawn in, questioning how someone could be banned for being too good on their very first attempt. The AllTube chat is on fire with thousands of viewers debating whether the video is a stunt or a genuine scandal. As the premiere timer hits 0, excitement peaks, with fans and skeptics alike ready to catch the streamer in a lie. The footage begins with a high-speed shot of a helicopter flying over a desert, signaling the start of a squad match in the game Battle Large. Our boy Almond appears visibly nervous in his tactical gear, which is understandable given that he is a complete novice. As the squad match interface fills the screen, viewers are baffled, wondering if his opponents are just bots or if the matchmaking is broken. In reality, the man behind the screen, Kim Joo-hyuk, smiles with satisfaction at the explosive audience reactions. As the video continues, initial doubt turns into pure shock because our hero starts pulling off insane plays with a compound bow. He showcases a unique, almost impossible technique where he fires while lying down using his feet, a display of skill that eventually leads him to a first-place finish. Unfortunately, the celebration ends abruptly. The screen fills with static as a narrative box explains that Almond received a Smurf report. Despite the fact that he is a brand new player, a formal account suspension notice appears on the screen, banning him for a full year. This causes viewers to explode in anger, calling the admin a nutjob and mocking the game's management. Once the premiere ends, the 4,000 viewers have nowhere to vent their frustration, so they rush to their respective gaming communities to post about the injustice. This incident quickly metastasizes because players are already fed up with how Battle Large is run, and before long the controversy is featured in official news articles on popular sites. Inside the Battle Large offices, the chief admin is furious, slamming his fist onto his desk. He screams at a blonde subordinate for suspending a player without checking his match history. The employee tries to apologize, claiming there are too many reports to handle, but the chief mockingly suggests they should hold a vote on whether the employee should be fired. After the tirade, the chief settles back and asks about the streamer's reach. Upon hearing that Almond only has about 1,000 viewers and no major connections, his demeanor shifts from anger to calculated suppression. He orders the employee to make dinner appointments with forum admins to squash the story, viewing the entire situation as an insignificant annoyance that is interfering with his upcoming promotion interview. By dawn the next day, Sang-hyun is in his bathroom brushing his teeth, checking his phone for an update that never comes. Suddenly, Joo-hyuk bursts in, panicked because all the forum posts and news articles about the ban have completely disappeared. Sang-hyun realizes the company is trying to bury the evidence, rather than admit their mistake. Because their accounts are still locked, Joo-hyuk worries about today's stream, but our protagonist remains calm. He reveals that he is taking a break to meet with a director from a rival company called Punk, leaving Joo-hyuk in a state of shock at the possibility of receiving outside help. This calm, collected nature is a trait Sang-hyun has carried since childhood. A flashback to an archery field reveals a young Sang-hyun being praised by a coach for his incredible mental strength. Even when the boy lacks physical power, his focus is unparalleled. During one practice, he releases an arrow that strikes the bullseye perfectly, leaving his coach in awe. The coach tells him that regardless of what he does in life, he should never falter, ensuring that his arrow will always find the center of the target if he maintains that attitude. Back in the present, Sang-hyun walks through the busy city, reflecting on how his genius for archery has been reduced to simple lines on a resume. He eventually meets Director Oh, who waves him down with a friendly laugh. As they walk together under the sunset, the director notices Sang-hyun's uncanny composure and asks if he ever gets nervous. Even veteran streamers tend to feel the pressure when dining with corporate executives. Our hero admits he is simply a bit dull by nature, though the director points out that his sharp gameplay suggests otherwise. When Sang-hyun learns that Director Oh has actually been watching his streams, he is surprised, but the director laughs it off, noting he chose to partner with Sang-hyun specifically because he saw that potential firsthand. The pair arrives at a high-end sushi restaurant, an environment so luxurious it makes our protagonist worry. He wonders if he has actually earned enough for the company to justify such an expensive meal, but Director Oh reassures him that his contributions have already far outweighed the cost. While the director steps out to bring in Punk's director, Han Tae-ho, Sang-hyun is left to wonder what he has done to deserve such high praise. When Han Tae-ho finally enters, Sang-hyun offers a polite bow. During their initial handshake, the director notices Sang-hyun's hand trembling slightly. This detail makes the executive wonder if the young man is simply paralyzed by nerves, or if there is a deeper reason for the physical reaction. As the meal begins, the group enjoys a series of appetizers, or sumami, followed by sushi served by the master chef, Tuji-san. Han Tae-ho is in high spirits, joking that the food tastes even better when it's charged to the company card. Sang-hyun finds the filefish and scallop incredible, and his familiarity with the proper dining etiquette surprises Han Tae-ho. When Director Oh mentions that Sang-hyun previously worked at Asung, the director's curiosity is piqued. He realizes that our boy wasn't just a typical hire, he was a nepotism baby who entered the corporate world through connections. Sang-hyun feels a bit bashful, recalling how he felt like a parachute hire, but the conversation shifts when Han Tae-ho mentions he is high school friends with Lee Chil-sung, a top executive at Asung. Despite the jovial atmosphere, Han Taiho eventually turns the conversation toward a more serious topic. He notes that leaving a secure job at a massive corporation like Asung to become a streamer is a high-stakes gamble. He asks Sang-hyun directly if something happened to cause such a drastic career change. Recognizing this as a rare opportunity to build a personal connection with a powerful ally, our hero decides to be vulnerable. He reveals his past as a professional archer and explains that he was a national-level champion by the age of 17. This revelation shocks the directors, especially when Sang-hyun explains that a devastating car accident resulted in a permanent hand injury that forced him to retire. He admits that he struggled for 3 years to overcome the trauma before his former coach helped him land the desk job at Asung. Because he lacked the qualifications of his elite peers, he faced constant ridicule and screaming from his bosses. He felt like an outcast until he discovered virtual reality. Within the game world, his right hand finally moved without trembling, giving him a sense of freedom he hadn't felt in a decade. Han Taiho is moved by the story, offering the comforting perspective that life's unpredictability is what makes it fun. He encourages Sang-hyun, insisting that his unique path will lead to success. The mood brightens as Director Oh presents a tablet showing a sharp upward trend in sales for Kingdom Age. He explains that since Sang-hyun began streaming the game, sales have skyrocketed, and user reviews are flooded with mentions of almond. This concrete data proves that our protagonist has genuine star power. However, when the topic shifts to his current game, Battle Large, Sang-hyun realizes he can no longer stay silent. He notes that Han Taiho's own son plays the game, which adds to the pressure. He looks Han Taiho in the eye and prepares to explain the account suspension, knowing the timing is finally right to admit there is a significant problem. Inside the lobby of the Battle Large headquarters, an admin sprints across the tiles. Breathing heavily because his manager called him so early, he masks his anxiety with a greedy smirk, assuming this urgent meeting is actually about a promotion, which is why he enters the office with such energy. However, his hope vanishes when he sees assistant manager Kim already seated on the sofa. The manager wastes no time on pleasantries, asking if they know where he was that morning. When he reveals he was in the executive director's office, the admin's face breaks into a nervous sweat. The manager looks him in the eye and asks if he knows who Almond is, causing the admin to panic internally. He recalls the news articles about the admin controversy and realizes his attempt to delete all the posts failed. Before he can lie, the manager shouts in rage, demanding an answer. Unfortunately, the situation is much worse than a simple mistake. The manager mocks them, stating that since they are leaving anyway, he won't waste time talking nonsense. The admin pales, asking if this is just disciplinary action, but the manager laughs at his ignorance. He reveals a professional profile on his tablet. Our boy, Yu Sang-hyun, is actually a partnered streamer with Punk. Because Sang-hyun increased Kingdom Age sales by 5 times, the executive director was notified immediately. The manager explains that if Punk cuts off their promotions, the company is finished. He berates them for touching a Punk partner without any proof, calling them too dull to even handle a cover-up properly. He tells them to live honestly from now on and dismisses them to the disciplinary committee. As they leave, the manager is already on the phone, confirming that the Almond case has been moved to Team 2, and the suspension has been cleared. He orders his team to prepare for an advertisement filming with Punk, noting that they need to get rid of all the dirt. Meanwhile, a heated confrontation erupts in the hallway. The admin grabs assistant manager Kim by the collar, screaming that he specifically asked if the streamer had connections. Kim grits his teeth and shouts back, reminding the admin that he was the one who wanted to bury the incident. Their shouting match turns into a physical brawl until security arrives to break them up. The next morning, the mood is much calmer at our protagonist's apartment. Sang-hyun sits eating cereal while Joo-hyuk stands nearby in pajamas, demanding to hear about the dinner with the Punk directors. Our protagonist casually mentions that it went well, and that Director Han even asked for personal archery lessons. This causes Joo-hyuk's mouth to hang open in total shock. He imagines a future where Sang-hyun is so well connected that the director considers him one of his people. While they talk, a sound rings out from the table. It is an official message from the Battle Large admin team. Because of the director's influence, the company has officially apologized for the suspension and offered in-game compensation. Joo-hyuk notices the time is exactly 9:35 a.m. This forces our hero to realize the magnitude of the support he has. The director must have called the other company's office the moment he arrived at work. Joo-hyuk happily heads to the stove, insisting on cooking a proper meal to celebrate. Ready to move forward, Yu Sang-hyun puts on a tracksuit and heads outside to work out. While stretching, he takes a moment to post a status update. My suspension was lifted. I'll be streaming at 7 p.m. tonight. The post is immediately flooded with supportive comments from fans who are thrilled to have him back. At the same time, his editor, Seo Jia, is lying on her bed smiling at her phone. She sees that the media is now siding with Almond and exposing the stubborn admin's weak points. However, she spots a new notification that surprises her. It's a video premiere from a creator named Small Long titled Battle vs. Large. The thumbnail features a bear avatar and a tagline mocking the incompetent admin. Yoo Sang-hyun's recent account suspension unexpectedly turns into a massive promotional springboard for him. While a pink avatar issue all-tuber named Small Long initially tries to capitalize on the drama by mocking Battle Large's management, his plan backfires. Small Long aggressively shouts to his audience about how a first-time player could possibly be banned as a smurf, even leaking that a punk director had to personally intervene because Allman's emails were being ignored by low-level staff. However, Small Long's wide-eyed greed over hitting 100,000 views in 3 hours is short-lived. Because he lacks actual footage of our boy's skill, viewers begin to sweat him, flooding the chat with demands to see the actual clips. These casual users do not care about the dogshit management. They are only curious about the player whose talent is so high it breaks the game's reporting system. Back at his apartment, Sang-hyun is stunned to see his all-tube views surging toward 400,000. While his manager Joo-hyuk reacts with explosive excitement and wonders if the numbers are a platform error, our protagonist remains remarkably stoic. He tells Joo-hyuk that while it's great to see a video blow up, the popularity of celebrities is short-lived. He believes he cannot let his emotions fluctuate over a single flame in the wind, reminding himself that mind control is a basic skill for an archer. However, this calm facade is tested the moment he enters his gaming capsule. As the stream begins, the chat moves so fast it makes him dizzy. He is so startled by the sudden influx of 2,000 people before the intro even finishes that he accidentally hits the door and pops out of the capsule. He offers a clumsy excuse to Joo-hyuk about moving inside, but his manager sends a mocking message, laughing at how our hero acted tough just moments before. The reality of his new scale is undeniable. The viewer count quickly climbs to 2,910, and then surges past 3,700. This influx is evidence that the character Almond has successfully crossed over to a diverse public audience that is much larger than the typical streaming niche. To ground himself, our boy reflects on his days as a national athlete, realizing that while the method of expression has changed, the high-pressure environment of the spotlight is exactly the same as standing in a stadium surrounded by falling confetti. Once the stream officially kicks off, Sang-hyun handles the transition professionally. He uses a blue digital PowerPoint-style presentation to explain the details of his suspension and how Punk's intervention resolved it. This transparency turns the chat against the Battle Large admins, with viewers expressing goosebumps that Small Long's rumors about corporate power moves were actually true. While a Kingdom Parrot troll tries to derail the mood by donating 1,001 to call his current path a shitty game, Allman simply smirks. He firmly announces his true objective for the 4,000 eyes watching, a solo match in Battle Large. Because he previously matched into a squad game by mistake, the chat is relieved to see him select an individual solo preparation match this time. However, the skepticism remains high. Many veterans believe that if he does not find a bow, he will be lucky to break the top 90, as even pros can be eliminated in 5 seconds with bad luck. This lack of faith does not bother our protagonist, as he knows he still has everything to prove. The stakes are raised instantly when a viewer named Believe You offers a massive 300,001 mission for a first-place victory. Driven by the mission and his own determination, Allman's focus becomes razor-sharp. He realizes that this match is the deciding factor in his career. He will either become a passing curiosity or a certified superstar. As the beginning game screen flashes and blue light streaks consume the capsule, our hero grips his gear with a determined look, ready to show the world the capabilities of the superstar they have gathered to see. The rhythmic thrum of a military helicopter's rotor blades cuts through a sun-bleached sky, setting a tense stage for the start of a new match in Battle Large. Inside the aircraft, the atmosphere is far from peaceful. An aggressive instructor in full tactical gear looms over the recruits, screaming at them to move faster. A nearby recruit recoils in terror, wondering if the instructor is actually just an NPC or a real person. Allman sits cautiously near the cargo hatch. He remembers being pushed out without warning in his last match, so he waits for the right moment to ensure he doesn't start the game at a disadvantage again. As Sang-hyun tumbles into the air, the vast desert map reveals ruined structures and dry riverbeds far below. He realizes that his previous struggle stemmed from landing in a chaotic zone, which is why he is now determined to find a quieter spot to farm equipment. While he plummets toward the earth, his parachute deploys, silhouetting him against the horizon. The livestream chat is already buzzing with anticipation, with viewers jokingly placing bets on whether he will have another clumsy landing. Our hero has clearly practiced. Instead of rolling on the floor, he hits the ground in a perfect superhero landing. This impressive improvement earns him a wave of praise and a donation from a fan, signaling that his skills are already evolving. Once on the ground, Sang-hyun heads toward a small, isolated stone building to find his first weapon. The area is deserted, allowing him to loot in peace. His luck continues when he finds a modern compound bow resting on a crate. While the chat teases him for being unlucky enough to find a weapon he actually likes, the playful mood shifts instantly when a faint rustle sounds outside. His senses are heightened, causing our protagonist to spin around immediately. He spots an enemy silhouette approaching and decides to take the initiative. Sang-hyun doesn't just wait for the fight to come to him. He sprints through the building and leaps through a window into the open air. He catches a nearby player completely off guard. The enemy barely has time to process the sight of a man flying through the air with a bow before Sang-hyun releases the string. The arrow streaks through the air and strikes the enemy directly in the head, resulting in an instantaneous elimination. This high-speed play stuns the chat, especially when a donor points out that Sang-hyun judged the target's location based on sound alone. Even his manager Joo-hyuk is watching from the real world, breathless at how much more graceful and composed our boy has become compared to his hectic first match. As the game progresses, Sang-hyun moves with the confidence of someone who knows exactly what will happen next. He spots another player attempting to flee across the desert and aims his bow high into the sky. The arrow drops with terminal velocity, striking the runner dead center in the head. This display of god-tier accuracy causes a divide in the chat. New viewers are in total disbelief, while old fans mock them, claiming that for Almond, headshots are the only option. Despite the praise, our hero realizes he has a major problem. He is currently 4 kilometers away from the safe zone. The blue death zone is closing in, forcing Sang-hyun to race against the clock. He quickly loots one more building, finding a camo-patterned first aid kit that will be vital for the late game. A hilarious moment occurs when the chat points out a double-barrel shotgun on the floor. Our protagonist, clearly wanting to stick to his bow-only identity, shamelessly pretends he can't see the gun at all. He ignores the protests of his viewers and walks away with a cheeky smile, prioritizing his signature style over modern firepower. The race against the environment becomes brutal as the blue energy field overtakes him. Sang-hyun grits his teeth against the pained feedback of the toxic air, using an energy drink to boost his stamina. As he nears the shimmering wall of the safe zone, he witnesses the chaotic reality of the bronze rank he's playing in. He watches a motorcyclist flip over a boulder in a spectacular accident and hears other players screaming for medics or fighting over a single bicycle. Our hero stares at the frantic, clumsy behavior of his opponents in total bewilderment. He realizes that while he faced elite squads in his first match, he is now surrounded by players who can barely aim or drive. As the safe zone shrinks rapidly, the sky chokes with blue electrical streaks and lightning, while the air fills with the thunderous gunfire and massive explosions. In the ruins below, tension reaches a breaking point. One player, clutching a handgun and dripping with sweat, screams in a panic for others to stay back. His opponent is equally bewildered, shouting back that starting a fight in the middle of a collapsing zone is total insanity. Almond is jolted into action when a stray bullet slams into the wall right beside him. As he ducks behind a stone pillar, his stream chat explodes with laughter, mocking the bronze rank logic where players would rather brawl than survive. Sang-hyun realizes he cannot wait for the situation to resolve itself. He decides that when you are in a shithole, you have to play by the shithole's rules. Our protagonist readies his compound bow, catching the attention of an enemy sniper. The attacker is stunned that an archer is not only running through open sand, but is actually managing to aim a headshot while mid-sprint. The situation turns dire when the remaining players realize how dangerous Almond is. They stop fighting each other and turn their guns toward him, surrounding our boy in the center of the ruins. While the chat panics over a 4-on-1 standoff in a solo match, Sang-hyun reaches for a fletched arrow and smirks. This high-pressure environment feels surprisingly familiar to him. This sense of familiarity stems from a vivid flashback to his youth at the athlete's village. Because his personality was milder back then, Sang-hyun is often adopted by national-level soccer and basketball seniors. These elite athletes have an extreme way of showing affection, often dragging him into grueling matches during his lunch breaks. Whether he is collapsing on the soccer field or failing to find a three-pointer screen on the basketball court, the young archer is constantly exhausted and overwhelmed. The turning point comes when his seniors realize he is too paralyzed by the number of defenders. One senior athlete screams at him that since there is no one to pass to, he has to feint them. Archery is a sport where there is no one to trick but a judge, so the concept of fooling an enemy is completely foreign to him. His mentors teach him that he does not need to physically outrun his opponents. He just has to create a moment's gap by faking his movements. They warn him that he cannot half-ass the act. He has to be genuine by coordinating his gaze, the lean of his waist, and his steps to fool a pro. Young Sang-hyun takes the advice to heart. During a soccer match, he executes a sharp, focused feint that throws a national-level defender completely off balance. He manages to launch the ball into the net, leaving the pros in absolute disbelief that a crazy archery brat has actually tricked them. Although he initially thinks this knowledge is useless for an archer, he realizes its true value today. Back in the game world, our protagonist utilizes these athletic instincts. As gunshots erupt, he dives to the sand and lies on his back. While the enemies are distracted by their own confusion and shouting at each other for trolling, Almond uses the opening. He looses an arrow with a brilliant flash, striking an enemy in the forehead. A system banner immediately flashes, confirming a double kill and bringing the player count down to 74. As the dust settles, our boy stands up and exhales a long, relieved sigh. He is gasping for air and kneeling in the sand, noting that his HP is dangerously low. Because he spends so much time farming supplies only to have his health shredded in one chaotic fight, he feels a bit of frustration. He begins applying a first aid kit, though he grumbles that the game is far from easy. Meanwhile, the perspective shifts to the real world, where Kim Joo-hyuk stares at his laptop in a state of shock. His eyes widen as he sees the live viewer count hit a staggering 5,005. He leaps from his seat, clenching his fist in triumph. Joo-hyuk reflects on his time in the corporate marketing department, realizing that his noise marketing strategy regarding the admin controversy was the perfect double-edged sword. He knows that while the controversy brought them 5,000 new eyes, it is now entirely up to Sang-hyun to maintain that interest. Watching our hero sprint forward on the screen, Joo-hyuk shakes away his anxiety. He knows that if anyone can handle the spotlight as if it were no big deal, it is Sang-hyun. An overhead view of the desolate battle-large desert shows Almond continuing a dominant streak. With a sudden, stylized release of his bow, he lands a perfect headshot on an unsuspecting player. Having already secured 12 kills, his live stream chat is in a state of absolute shock. Our hero ignores the praise and immediately begins rustling through the fallen player's belongings. He finds nothing but basic recovery items and bandages. This lack of high-tier loot leads Almond to complain that a decent helmet is still dodging him, even though he is systematically wiping out the competition. His viewers find this obsession hilarious, pointing out that in such a low-ranked match, most players haven't survived long enough to farm anything useful. When a donor suggests he should look through houses instead of corpses, our boy delivers a cold, logical rebuttal. He decides that because the items in houses are poor, he will simply let other players do the work for him and take their gear by force. This human farming strategy earns him a new nickname from the chat, the Helmet Murderer. Our protagonist announces that he will only target players wearing helmets from now on, promising to let the unprotected ones slide by, at least in theory. The mercy Almond promised is tested almost immediately when he spots movement in the distance. He notices a player who isn't wearing a helmet and prepares to let him go, but the enemy makes the mistake of leveling a gun at him. The player has his finger on the trigger, so our hero reacts with instinctive speed. He looses an arrow that strikes with a massive impact, eliminating the threat instantly. As the enemy collapses, Almond lets out a long sigh, noting that the guy was far too noisy for someone without any head protection. The chat is floored by this cold remark, but Sang-hyun is quickly distracted by his internal logistics. He notices his donation alerts are surging, which prompts him to check his live viewer count. His eyes go wide in total shock when he sees that 5,549 people are currently watching. This triggers a flashback to a conversation with his manager, Joo-hyuk, who previously explained that surpassing 5,000 viewers is the threshold for becoming a stable, full-time professional. This translates to a massive monthly income, so our boy becomes flustered and blushes, realizing his dream is within reach. He quickly tries to center himself, vowing never to check the viewer count during a match again to avoid losing his focus. Just as Sang-hyun tries to regain his composure, a grenade rolls to his feet with a terrifying metallic sound. This is the work of a notorious stream sniper named Bubble Sniper. These snipers are a common plague on the Tribe platform, specifically targeting the streamer Bubblegum to ruin his matches. Bubble Sniper, lurking behind a tree, assumes Almond is just a small fry, and decides to eliminate him with a single grenade to clear the way for his true target. He primes the grenade perfectly, so Almond only has 2 seconds to react once he notices the reflection in his eye. The sniper expects a quick kill, but our protagonist performs a feat of high-speed physics that leaves the audience in disbelief. In a blurred motion, Almond uses his compound bow to strike the rolling grenade with an arrow at point-blank range. Instead of exploding, the grenade is launched back through the air at a 45-degree angle. Bubble Sniper, who is already walking away in satisfaction, is startled by a whistling sound. He looks up in terror just in time to see his own grenade falling directly onto him. A massive explosion consumes the sniper, launching him into the air and leaving him soot-covered and battered in a crater. Almond walks over to the fallen sniper and looks down with a professional focus. He is delighted to see that the enemy was actually wearing a helmet. Before the terrified Bubble Sniper can even plead for his life, Almond releases a final arrow to secure the elimination and claims the military helmet for himself. The chat explodes in total confusion, unable to understand how he deflected a grenade with an arrow. Our hero explains it casually, stating that it was simpler than you think. He treats the grenade like a soccer ball, explaining that by hitting the bottom edge at a specific angle, he was able to kick it back to the sender. With his new gear equipped, Almond realizes the blue zone is shrinking again. He begins a high-speed sprint across the ruins, systematically picking off the remaining players. A rapid montage shows him landing mid-air shots and low-angle snipes, quickly bringing the player count down from 19 to just 5. The final safe zone is now a lush forest area, and our protagonist looks out over the field with a sharp, confident smile, ready to end the match for good. However, the final obstacle appears on the horizon. The famous streamer Bubblegum is already there, hidden in a ghillie suit and aiming a high-powered sniper rifle directly at the path Almond must take. Despite confident talk about taking first place, viewers mercilessly mock him. Because his historical win rate is a dismal 0.04%, the chat floods with jokes and small donations intended to tease his lack of skill. This skepticism infuriates the streamer, but he tries to stay focused, believing that his high ground position and excellent equipment finally give him a real shot at a chicken dinner. Suddenly, peace shatters when 3 distant players appear in the ruins. Bubblegum fumbles with his sniper scope, realizing that wiping them out puts him in an immediate 1v1 for the win. Chat remains doubtful, predicting he will miss every shot and blame bad luck as usual. However, he manages to prove them wrong for a fleeting second. He squeezes the trigger, and an explosion fills the frame as he lands a perfect one-shot elimination on a red-haired player. Even Bubblegum can't believe he actually hit the target. Emboldened by rare success, Bubblegum tracks the next target, but before he can fire, another player falls face down in the dirt. A golden banner reveals that Almond has secured the kill instead. This shift in luck causes the chat to howl with laughter, noting that the legendary Bubblegum has returned to his usual form of failing to secure the win. Infuriated by the kill steal, Bubblegum scans the ridge and spots a player holding a compound bow. Bubblegum is baffled that someone would use a bow this late in the game, but confusion turns to a strange chill when he realizes Almond is looking directly into his sniper scope from a massive distance. Strangely, it feels as though they've met eyes across the desert. Bubblegum tries to dismiss the intimidation, racking his rifle bolt and aiming at the standing target. He mocks Almond internally, believing the archer is a total newbie who doesn't understand that an arrow can't possibly compete with the range and velocity of a sniper rifle. Bubblegum fires his rifle with a confident remark, but what happens next defies the game's logic. As the bullet streaks toward its target, Almond releases a black-tipped arrow that travels on a downward arc. In a spectacular collision of metal and light, the arrow strikes the bullet directly in midair, causing an explosion of fragments. Bubblegum is left staring at his screen in total shock, wondering where his bullet went, while his chat begins to suspect he's encountered a bug or a god-tier player. Refusing to believe what he saw, Bubblegum cocks his rifle for a second attempt. However, as he looks through the scope, he sees Almond running through the open field while drawing a new arrow. Another explosion fills his view as Almond successfully counters him again. By the third time this happens, the chat realizes this isn't luck. It is pure, terrifying skill. Bubblegum is now visibly trembling, realizing that Almond is neutralizing his superior firepower with nothing but wood and string. Almond suddenly vanishes into the ruins, forcing Bubblegum to scan the windows in a panic. The hunter becomes the hunted when Almond suddenly appears in the scope's crosshairs, aiming his bow directly back at the sniper. Before Bubblegum can react, Almond releases a shot at point-blank range. The arrow shatters the glass of the sniper scope, piercing through and resulting in a splash of blood. Bubblegum is eliminated in third place, leaving him slumped in his gaming chair in the real world, utterly defeated. Despite the loss, Bubblegum is so captivated by the bow guy that he decides to spectate the final match alongside his 50,000 viewers. Back in the game, Almond is seen kneeling in the grass, surrounded by arrows. Our boy casually remarks that because a sniper rifle and a bow have similar firing rates, he figured the counter would work. Viewers are losing their minds over his nuts logic, while Almond explains that he'd rather take control of the fight than leave his life in the opponent's hands. Because of this flashy performance, donations begin to flood the screen, including a massive 300,000 won from a fan. Our protagonist acknowledges the support, but quickly refocuses, knowing there is exactly one person left. He notes that the final opponent is being dangerously quiet, suggesting they are steeled and waiting for the perfect opening. Our hero lies flat on the ground, listening for the faintest rustle of movement. Suddenly, his eyes sharpen as he detects a sound. He springs into a crouch and pivots toward a distant stone wall, drawing his bow. Although the viewers can't see anything, Almond fires an arrow that travels through the air and strikes an enemy in the helmet. The enemy reels back, shocked that their hiding spot was discovered. Almond realizes the opponent wasn't actually a cool-headed pro, they simply had a lucky location. Desperate, the enemy begins spraying a submachine gun, hitting Almond in the shoulder. Our boy remains calm, dismissing the attack as having no aim. However, the situation becomes annoying as the enemy retreats behind cover. Our protagonist notices the final player is wearing a heavy, legendary golden brown helmet. Because this unbreakable gear can survive a direct headshot, Almond realizes his usual one-hit victory won't work. Our protagonist admits the situation is annoying. He doesn't let it discourage him for long, deciding that taking down a tanky opponent simply requires a bit more effort. He begins drawing his compound bow with a look of pure determination. Our boy looses an arrow that strikes the golden helmet with a sharp metallic clang. The impact is so heavy that the opponent, Pitchtone, is forced onto his knees in the grass with a pained cry. While Almond watches carefully to see if the man can still retaliate, he is suddenly blindsided by a massive white explosion. Pitchtone has deployed a desperate smokescreen, prompting the chat to mock the chaotic strategy being used to stall the fight. Tactical items like grenades and flashbangs begin flying out of the thick smoke, forcing our hero to run through a gauntlet of fire and explosions. The stream chat is in an uproar, laughing at the farming meta Pitchtone is using to stay alive. Almond realizes that if he gives his opponent any more time to heal, he will lose his hard-earned advantage. Luckily, the sound of coughing gives the enemy's position away as the smoke begins to clear. Identifying the target, our protagonist nocks an arrow. He reflects on how much he loves using a bow in this game, specifically because it allows him to kill in absolute silence compared to a loud firearm. While Pitchtone is hidden in the fading smoke desperately applying a recovery bandage, Almond releases a shot. The arrow slams into Pitchtone's chest, leaving the enemy in total shock that he was targeted so accurately without hearing a single sound. The confrontation turns pathetic as a wounded Pitchtone crawls toward 2 grenades on the ground, his hand shaking with effort. Almond refuses to let the man launch another explosive and fires another arrow that pierces Pitchtone's hand just as he reaches for the pin. Because the smokescreen should have made vision impossible, Pitchtone is left screaming in confusion about how he's being hit with such precision. Our boy simply notes that he's being forced to kill in this annoying way because of that one legendary helmet. Before the enemy can even process that he's facing a streamer, a final arrow strike secures the elimination. Confetti and paper strips rain down over the desert as a system banner congratulates Almond on his first-place victory. He has secured a staggering 31 kills, a feat that sends the chat into a frenzy. While some fans joke that he'll get banned again for such high numbers, our hero raises his bow in a triumphant pose with a wide smile. Once back in the waiting area, Sang-Yun turns on his camera to thank his supporters. He begins reading out the names of donors when a sparkling purple alert pings across the screen. A viewer named Persistent Thrower has donated a staggering 1.5 million won, calling our boy feisty. This is the single largest donation Sang-Yun has ever received, and it leaves both him and his manager, Ju-hyuk, in a state of absolute wide-eyed disbelief. In the real world, Ju-hyuk immediately begins researching the donor. He recognizes the nicknames Persistent Thrower and Strategist from old named donor lists on Tribe dating back 10 years. Because these accounts have no history of issues, he concludes they are high-profile supporters rather than trolls. He breaks into a confident smirk, realizing that Sang-Hyun is officially raking in big money and successfully proving their toxic former boss, Manager Park, wrong. Back on the stream, Sang-Hyun feels the pressure to give a proper reaction for such a massive gift. He recalls that his previous reaction for 300,000 won was a somersault, so he decides to up the ante. He finds his compound bow against a wall and tells the audience that his credibility is at stake. He performs 3 rapid, high-speed backflips in midair before firing an arrow into the sky as a final salute. He waves a joyful goodbye to his audience, but the exit goes horribly wrong. Instead of a smooth logout, the screen fades back in to show Almond's character standing in the field with an arrow through his own head. This hilarious offbeat ending sends the chat into fits of laughter, with fans joking about somersault inflation causing the stream to crash. In reality, Sang-Hyun is screaming at Ju-hyuk for failing to cut the feed on time. Ju-hyuk can only laugh and apologize, explaining that he fumbled the controls because Sang-Hyun ended the stream so abruptly. After the adrenaline fades, Sang-Hyun heads for a shower to wash away the exhaustion of the day. As water drips in the bathroom, he reflects on the match. He realizes that even in a bronze rank game, victory wasn't perfect, and the grenade encounter was a wake-up call. He stares at his reflection with an intense, determined gaze, vowing to improve his skills before he reaches the more difficult diamond ranks. Later that evening, Ju-hyuk interrupts his thoughts to ask if a streamer named Bubblegum is famous. Sang-Yun, who used to watch Bubblegum for comfort during his darkest corporate days, confirms that he is a huge fan. Ju-hyuk reveals that the sniper Almond faced at the end of the match was actually Bubblegum himself. He shows Sang-Yun a clip of the famous creator spectating Almond's gameplay in front of 50,000 viewers, praising his incredible bow skills and refusing to believe it was only Almond's second game. While Ju-hyuk is thrilled by the big exposure, Sang-Hyun becomes quiet and retreats to his bedroom. Lying in the dark, he feels a strange mix of emotions. He is touched that the person who inspired his new career finally knows he exists, but he feels a bit upset that the moment was likely only special for him. He decides to check the community forums to distract himself, only for his face to light up with shock as he discovers a new post that has become a hot topic. He remains frozen in bed, struggling to believe his own eyes as the reality sinks in. This is no dream. Our boy is officially exploding on the trending section of the Battle 31 community. The top spots are dominated by his own highlights, featuring his plays and the spectacular way he dismantled the stream sniper, Bubble Sniper. The narrative shifts to another room where Seojia is hunched over her computer. Past midnight, she is exhausted, yet her eyes remain fixated on the monitor filled with Almond's gameplay and complex digital sound waves. A loud growl from her stomach reminds her that she hasn't eaten all day, but she remains indifferent. Having faced hardship in the real world, she views physical hunger as just another pain, unlike the joy she feels watching our hero. For her, Almond's stream is a sanctuary where the memory of the bastard who pushed her into a personal hell finally disappears. Driven by pure admiration, Gia works with intense resolve. She sketches detailed storyboards and adds precise sound effects, planning exactly where to use slow motion to highlight Almond's skill. A notification sound startles her. She checks the previous stream's data and is stunned to see a surge in donations. Her eyes widen as she spots a 1.5 million won gift from a user named Persistent Thrower. This causes a brief moment of frantic panic. Gia realizes she has dropped to second place on the donation leaderboards and moves to donate more to reclaim her spot. However, she freezes and stops herself. She realizes that as his official editor, her value comes from her craft, not her money. She sets down an iced coffee and resolves to make a video so cool that even those who saw the live performance will be in shock. After working through the night, Gia falls asleep at her desk just as the sun begins to rise. She sends a final message to Juhyuk at 7:30 a.m., confirming the upload before falling asleep. Shortly after, the notification bell rings out for thousands of subscribers, signaling the premiere of a new video. The AllTube chat is immediately flooded with fans who find the 5-minute wait to be the longest of their lives. Inside the apartment, Juhyuk and Sangyun watch the monitor together. Juhyuk is incredibly excited. Noting that the chat is moving so fast, it feels like the fans are trying to smash the digital door open. With nearly 1,500 people waiting, Juhyuk moves nervously, wondering if the video will meet the hype. Our protagonist, however, remains calm. When Juhyuk asks how he can be so stoic, Sangyun simply notices that the video has finally started. The video opens with piano music and artistic visuals, which surprises our hero. He realizes that while the music is soft, it creates a strange, lively harmony with his gameplay movements. Sangyun can feel the high quality of the directing. Gia has adjusted the tension, making the content accessible even to those who aren't gamers. The highlight reel reaches the 4 vs 1 defense sequence. Seeing it from a third-person perspective, our boy realizes how foolish his enemies looked while yelling in panic. The chat erupts with laughter, and Sangyun notices that the vibe feels more intimate and familiar than the chaotic livestream. The excitement peaks when the video transitions to the Steam Sniper encounter. Gia introduces Steam Sniper with a stylized banner and uses creative subtitles to present the choice: Run away versus kick it. The video slows down as it focuses on Almond's eyes, capturing the moment he deflects the grenade with an arrow. The massive red and yellow explosion on screen is met with a wall of wow from the viewers. The video concludes with a teaser for the final confrontation. Next up is Bubblegum. Sangyun watches with interest, wondering if his clash with the streamer will have more impact on AllTube than it did on the live forums. The answer comes instantly as the chat is flooded with OMG and holy shit comments. Juhyuk grabs Sangyun's shoulder in an ecstatic grip, showing him that Bubblegum's official forum is now completely filled with threads about Almond. The video is an undeniable success. As the scene transitions, we see Park Sung-tae sitting in his living room, watching the television in awe. He stares at the screen, captivated by the face of the newcomer who has just taken the internet by storm, wondering who this mysterious archer really is. The world of veteran streaming is defined by relentless consistency. Bubblegum streams for over a decade without a single break outside of fixed holidays, frequently crossing paths with other creators during his marathon sessions. His manager of 5 years, Park Sung-tae, usually views these encounters as routine, yet he finds himself deeply unsettled by the newcomer, Almond. While Sung-tae acknowledges that viral moments are the unpredictable charm of the industry, he is genuinely shocked after researching Yoo Sung-yoon's background. Our boy has only been playing virtual reality games for 3 weeks, so the fact that he performed world-class maneuvers in only his second match of Battle Large seems statistically impossible. Park Sung-tae watches a replay of the match where the archer deflected a bullet with an arrow, noting the extreme skepticism in the viewer chat. Many fans suspect the footage was faked with CG, or that Bubblegum was in on a staged performance. However, Sung-tae dismisses these conspiracy theories. He knows that tricking an audience with editing is impossible when the raw replay exists on Tribe, and a 10-year veteran like Bubblegum would never risk his reputation on a cheap setup. Despite seeing the feat with his own eyes, the manager is left scratching his head, wondering how such a massive gap in ability can exist. Driven by an epiphany, he decides they need a collaboration that will captivate the audience, eventually settling on a bold new project. Meanwhile, the digital community is buzzing with clips of Bubblegum's shocked reaction to being sniped. Back at the apartment, Sangyun is floored to see that his name is being discussed alongside a Tier 1 celebrity. He used to watch the veteran for comfort during his own difficult days, so our protagonist feels a deep sense of respect for him. His manager Joo-hyuk is equally fascinated, pointing out that a creator who maintains 50,000 viewers is a true celebrity. While Joo-hyuk is jealous of the income, our boy defends Bubblegum's character, explaining that the streamer lives a frugal life to support his 2 children. This admiration stems from Sang-hyun's understanding of Bubblegum's history. Although he is currently a titan on the platform, he wasn't always popular. He lacked a natural sense of humor and top-tier gaming skills, so the veteran survived the market through pure tenacity and a sense of responsibility. This earnestness reminds our hero of an older friend from his childhood who was always a reliable presence at the playground. Because of this nostalgic connection, Sang-hyun respects the man's drive, even if he doesn't necessarily respect his gaming skills. The success of the channel continues to climb, with Gia's latest edit reaching 80,000 views in just 5 hours. However, the surge in popularity brings a wave of hate comments from skeptics who mock Sang-hyun for being stuck in the bronze rank. Joo-hyuk worries that these insults will discourage his friend, but our boy remains remarkably unfazed. He grew up without a family, so shallow personal attacks don't affect him. Instead, he views the animosity as ammunition to fuel his growth. This mental fortitude actually makes Joo-hyuk realize why their former boss, Manager Park, was so intimidated by him. It's hard to control someone who doesn't falter in the face of hostility. To silence the doubters, Sang-hyun decides he needs to escape the lower ranks immediately. Virtual games consume a massive amount of stamina, so Joo-hyuk worries about the physical toll of increasing the match count, but our protagonist dismisses the concern. He believes that being called a genius while still in bronze is the real problem. Just as they begin planning a training schedule, Joo-hyuk rushes into the room with an urgent email from Bubblegum's manager. The proposal is for a salvation project, where Almond would teach the veteran how to play, but it comes with a steep condition. The collaboration can only happen once Sang-hyun reaches the Diamond rank. Diamond is a prestigious level that is notoriously difficult to obtain, but our hero doesn't hesitate. He clenches his fist with determination, realizing that a difficult goal only makes him more fired up. To kickstart this mission, he launches his stream at 3 p.m., an unusual time that catches his fans off guard. The channel is growing so fast, nearly 1,000 people tune in immediately, many of them joking that they are skipping work or school to watch. Almond appears in his capsule with a friendly smile, ready to drop a bombshell on his audience. He officially announces his goal to reach Diamond, which leads to a hilarious linguistic misunderstanding in the chat. Diamond and Almond are homonyms in Korean, so the fans initially think he's making a dark joke. With a confident smirk, our hero declares that he plans to reach the elite Diamond rank in just 2 weeks. This announcement triggers an absolute meltdown in the livestream chat. Because Diamond requires being within the top 0.5% of the entire player base, the viewers are convinced our boy has lost his mind. They point out that even a legendary player like Jonjapa took a full month to achieve that feat, making Sang-hyun's timeline seem like a total impossibility. Despite the skepticism, our protagonist remains unbothered, calmly explaining that it is theoretically possible according to his calculations. The chat continues to mock him, noting that he would have to rank in the top 10 for every single match to succeed, a task even professionals find daunting. While a wall of laughter and accusations of clickbait flood the screen, Sang-hyun internally acknowledges the absurdity of his claim. He knows he is a newcomer with only 2 games under his belt, which is why nobody believes him. However, as he recalls his record-shattering score in the tutorial, his gaze sharpens. Breaking records is nothing new for him, and rather than feeling pressured, he feels a surge of excitement. This electrifying tension is something the former athlete has yearned for, and with this he officially begins his climb. Back in the real world, Kim Joo-hyuk is clutching his tablet and screaming in disbelief. He watches the footage of Sang-hyun's clumsy parachute landings and questions the logic of trying to maintain a top 10 streak. As a strategist, this high-risk, high-return style makes Joo-hyuk's head spin. However, his frustration slowly turns into a newfound respect. He realizes that the aloof, content-in-the-middle version of Sang-hyun he knew from their toxic office was just a mask. Seeing his friend's determined gaze, Joo-hyuk decides to stop playing it safe and fully back the play. Our manager decides to lean into the chaos by fueling the rumors on community forums. Because he has total faith in Sang-hyun's skill, he starts spreading the word that Almond is going for a world record. While his own phone rings with missed calls from his parents, Joo-hyuk ignores the pressure of his personal life to focus on the dream they've started together. He whispers words of encouragement to the monitor, resolving to increase the stakes so they can secure an even bigger return on this massive gamble. Returning to the game, Almond is immediately asked for a winning strategy. He gives a bright smile and announces he is heading straight for the arsenal. This choice causes another explosion of concern in the chat, because the arsenal is a notorious death trap in the early game. Viewers assume he is going there to find a gun, but our boy insists he is sticking with his bow. He kicks open the heavy doors and enters a dark hallway filled with players engaged in a messy, itemless brawl. Because the other players are distracted by the fight, Sang-hyun spots a set of throwing knives on a metal table. Before he can grab one, a hooded enemy seizes his wrist and claims the loot. Without missing a beat, our protagonist delivers a powerful upward kick to the man's chin, forcing him to stagger back in pain. As the enemy clutches his jaw, Sang-hyun throws a knife into the air, launching it like a projectile. The knife pierces the enemy's forehead, resulting in an instant elimination. The chat is stunned by this home run play, wondering if our hero has a background in baseball. A flashback reveals that back in the athlete's village, a senior baseball player used to drag young Sang-hyun out to practice pitching. Even though he was an archer, the genius's throw he developed back then is now paying off. A viewer donates 5,001, correctly guessing that Sang-hyun chose the arsenal because skilled players have a massive advantage when nobody has found proper equipment yet. Almond confirms this, stating his goal is to eliminate as many players as possible before they can arm themselves. The carnage continues as our hero senses an enemy cocking a shotgun nearby. He dives sideways to dodge the blast and lunges forward to eliminate the attacker at close range. After clearing the stone corridors of threats, Almond finds himself standing before a massive pile of high-tier rifles and pistols. Instead of equipping the weapons, he grabs a fuel can and begins drenching the guns in gasoline. With a casual remark about the fuel's intended use, he tosses a lit bottle onto the pile, incinerating the entire stock. The chat goes wild at this evil display of scorched earth tactics. By destroying the guns, Almond ensures that even if he can't use them, no one else will be able to challenge his bow later in the match. With the arsenal completely cleared out, our protagonist revs up a motorcycle and speeds into the desert ruins. A massive explosion silhouettes him as he moves toward the next area, having turned the most competitive zone into a graveyard. The match concludes with a golden victory screen. Almond has secured first place with a staggering 50 kills, making his 2-week diamond goal seem suddenly, terrifyingly plausible. The performance is so overwhelming that the live chat descends into a state of disbelief. Viewers who stepped away for even a moment to grab a snack are shocked to find the lobby already cleared. This incredible momentum triggers a flurry of donations, with fans jokingly ordering half-and-half servings of corpses and arrows. Amidst the celebration, some fans worry that our hero might be suspended again, simply because his stats look like those of a cheater. Luckily, our protagonist remains unbothered. He sits calmly inside his capsule, offering a polite smile and a brief thank you to his donors, before immediately diving into the next round. While Almond focuses on the game, his manager, Joo-hyuk, works tirelessly behind the scenes to maximize the channel's exposure. He hunches over his monitor, frantically clicking away to produce a stream of rage-bait articles and clips. Joo-hyuk's strategy leans into the controversy of Almond's 2-week diamond declaration to spark heated debates. Online sentiment is beginning to shift. People originally showed up to talk trash about a bronze scrub, but they are staying because the actual footage shows a level of dominance that is impossible to ignore. Joo-hyuk watches the rising metrics with a mix of sweat and nervous excitement, realizing he is essentially raising the bet in a high-stakes game of poker. He knows that if Almond succeeds, it will be a legendary victory. If he fails, the backlash from the haters will be catastrophic. Back in the virtual world, a new match begins with the deafening roar of a helicopter. Players plummet toward a ruined desert town, but Almond executes a perfect landing while others struggle with their parachutes. Our hero observes several players heading toward the first floor of a landmark known as the Arsenal. Since this area is famous for rare tactical gear, it becomes an immediate bloodbath. Our protagonist isn't interested in the high-tier guns everyone else is fighting over. He lands gracefully on a rooftop, clutching only a tactical knife, and prepares to intercept the scavengers before they can even arm themselves. The first victim, an enemy in a camo jacket, is distracted by a rusty door and never sees Almond coming. Almond lands gracefully and delivers a mid-air slash across the man's chest. The blade is dull, so the enemy doesn't die instantly, but the injuries are enough to leave him coughing and paralyzed on the floor. When a second player spots the scene and tries to flee in terror, our hero doesn't let him escape. He raises his arm with clinical precision and throws the knife, striking the runner in the back of the head for an instant elimination. Almond retrieves his knife and moves toward the roof entrance, predicting that the injured player from earlier will try to open the door again. Without even looking back, he tosses the knife behind his shoulder. It strikes the enemy's hand with a sickening crunch, triggering a massive scream of agony. As Joo-hyuk explains, these medical injuries are essentially a death sentence, because recovery items are so rare in the early game. Almond looms over the terrified survivor with a calm smile. When the enemy asks why he's being so aggressive this early, our protagonist simply explains that he needs to climb the ranks. With a final decisive slash, he secures a double kill. The massacre continues as Almond stalks the remaining players in the building. He finds one last survivor cowering, holding a knife with trembling hands. The enemy is so overwhelmed by Almond's presence that he begins to cry and back away. While the chat mocks the opponent's behavior, Almond remains focused on the hunt. The enemy quickly jumps from the roof to escape the chaos, He hits the ground with a pained grunt, thinking he has successfully escaped. Almond is right behind him. Our hero leaps from the roof above, using his own body weight to crush the player upon landing. Since the enemy's body absorbed the shock of the fall, Almond takes 0 damage and finishes the kill with a quick strike. With the immediate area cleared, our hero notices a motorcycle parked nearby. He revs the engine and speeds back toward the interior of the arsenal, where several players are discussing a plan to head to the basement. Inside the building, the players are startled by the coming threat. They are stunned to see a motorcycle flying through the air toward them. Despite the chat's warnings that he's too late to stop them from farming, Almond smirks and insists it doesn't matter. He launches the bike off a ledge, soaring over the crates, and delivers a high-speed knife strike in mid-air. The enemy is eliminated before his feet even touch the ground. Almond lands the bike and looks forward with a confident smile as the chat erupts in praise. Our boy walks past his parked motorcycle toward a fresh pile of green loot crates. Having dismantled the previous owners, he is eager to see what they left behind. Luck is finally on his side as he discovers a high-end black compound bow, a grenade, and a Molotov cocktail. Meanwhile, the action shifts to the dark basement of the arsenal. 3 players are busy marveling at a wall of top-tier weapons. They believe the risk of coming here was worth it for the gear, but their celebration is short-lived. Suddenly, a huge fire explosion fills the room, cutting off their conversation. Almond has tossed his new Molotov cocktail down the hatch. The fire spreads rapidly through the metal hallway, turning the basement into a death trap. The players scramble in a panic as thick smoke fills the corridor, triggering a system damage notification. They rush toward the only exit, but the narrow metal staircase creates a bottleneck. As they argue over who is blocking the way, a golden elimination banner flashes on the screen. Our hero has landed a clean arrow in the teal-haired player's head, ending his run instantly. The survivor in the red mask tries to retaliate by firing a handgun up the stairs, but blinded by the smoke, he only hits the corpses of his own teammates. This confusion allows our protagonist to maintain his dominant position, while the last player in the yellow jacket scans the smoky darkness with a sniper rifle, wondering where the arrows are coming from. The camera focuses on Almond's intense blue eye. Using his high-speed movement skills, our hero performs a blurred maneuver at the top of the stairs. He looses a black-tipped arrow that streaks through the air on a high arc. It descends perfectly onto the red-masked enemy, resulting in a blood splatter and a double kill. The player in the yellow jacket is left in total shock, unable to even see his attacker through the fog. He huddles behind a pile of crates, hoping the silence means Almond has moved on. Unfortunately for him, our boy is one step ahead. Suspecting a final survivor is lurking in the fog, Almond tosses a grenade down the stairs. The player in the yellow jacket can only stare in horror as the explosive rolls to his feet. A giant explosion consumes the room, securing a triple kill for our protagonist. As the smoke clears, Almond steps down the stairs with a neutral expression, confirming that his intuition about the extra survivor was correct. This absolute annihilation of the arsenal quickly goes viral on web communities. A gif of the massacre titled "Almond the Ranked Genghis Khan" trends instantly, drawing thousands of new viewers to his stream. Juhyuk cheers as he watches the forums explode with interest. He realizes that while some people are starting to post negative comments about Almond's face or personality, this noise is actually a sign of massive growth. Juhyuk knows that as long as our hero keeps proving his skill, even the haters will eventually become a source of income. 30 minutes later, the screen flashes with a first-place victory. This win is vital because Battle Large uses a 5-match placement system to determine a player's starting tier. If Sanghyun wins all 5, he will skip the lower ranks and land in gold, making his road to diamond much shorter. Driven by this winning strategy, our hero jumps from the helicopter for his next placement match, heading straight for the arsenal again. However, a massive variable appears mid-air. Almond looks to his side and sees another player falling right next to him. It is Bubble Sniper, the diamond-ranked stream sniper he humiliated in a previous match. Bubble Sniper is back for revenge, staring intensely at our boy as they plummet toward the ground. Back at his desk, Juhyuk is in a state of despair. He realizes the chances of meeting a diamond-ranked sniper in a placement match are nearly 0, and a loss here would ruin Almond's chances of reaching gold. He feels helpless, watching the most important moment of their new career go down from the sidelines. But his fear turns into a grin when he sees Almond's reaction. Instead of being intimidated, our boy simply gives Bubble Sniper the middle finger mid-fall. Bubble Sniper laughs at the nutman's audacity, but Juhyuk finds his own resolve. He realizes his job is not to worry, but to make Almond's victory glorious. He begins typing rapidly, heading straight for the Bubble fan cafe to stir up trouble. By spreading the word that the infamous sniper is about to get cooked by a rookie, Juhyuk successfully drives the viewer count up to nearly 4,000. The stage is now set for a legendary showdown. As the two rivals dive toward the arsenal ruins in the desert below, Juhyuk watches with total confidence. He knows that this is not just a game anymore. It is the definitive end of the beef between the archer and the sniper. Joohyuk's aggressive marketing in the Bubble Fan Cafe keeps the digital community buzzing with anticipation. A provocative forum post claiming that the notorious stream sniper, Bubble Sniper, is about to be cooked draws thousands of curious eyes. While many fans doubt a bow user can win, Joohyuk watches the viewer count surge past 4,000 with a smirk. He realizes this match is the perfect box office hit because it pits a genius newbie against a veteran troll whose skills are actually acknowledged. This high-stakes narrative causes the audience to swell to nearly 5,000 people just as the final placement match begins. As our boy falls through the sky, he realizes that a single mistake here will shatter his goal of reaching Diamond in 2 weeks. He notices Bubble Sniper smiling nearby and understands the sniper aims to crush his momentum. While the chat mocks the sniper for stomping on talent, Almond maintains his composure. He calculates that Bubble Sniper is a Diamond 1 player, 3 ranks higher than his own goal, meaning the sniper has likely analyzed his patterns and potential strategies. To counter this, our protagonist decides to throw away the rulebook and fight dirty. While still hundreds of feet in the air, he lunges forward and tackles Bubble Sniper mid-fall. This unprecedented mid-air brawl leaves the sniper in a state of absolute shock. As they struggle and tumble through the sky, the chat erupts in laughter at the parachute battle. Bubble Sniper eventually regains his composure, mocking Almond for being too afraid to face him properly on the ground. However, our hero simply smirks, asking who the one was that already died to a bronze player once before. This remark sends Bubble Sniper into a red-veined fury, but their argument is cut short as the ground rushes up to meet them with a massive impact. Luckily, both survive the landing, though they are left dazed and coughing in a massive dust cloud. Almond immediately springs to his feet and begins sprinting away, realizing a bare-handed fight is disadvantageous for a newcomer. He heads toward the arsenal building, searching desperately for any weapon to level the playing field. He spots a knife on the ground and dives for it, but Bubble Sniper is right on his heels, determined to intercept him. Our protagonist hurls the knife at his pursuer, but what happens next leaves the Nut Nation in total despair. Bubble Sniper performs an incredible inverted dive and catches the spinning knife by the handle mid-air. The chat is floored by this Diamond 1 display, fearing the bowman is finally cooked. Bubble Sniper immediately retaliates, throwing the knife back at the archer with a lethal spin. Instead of dodging, our boy charges directly toward the danger. He realizes that retreating is pointless because there is another knife visible on the ground near the sniper's feet. In a display of insane reflexes, Almond performs a mid-air somersault and catches the spinning knife handle himself. This high-speed catch leaves Bubble Sniper paralyzed in shock. Almond doesn't give him a moment to recover and grapples with the sniper in a brutal struggle. Although Bubble Sniper manages to grab a second blade from the ground, Almond remains focused on blocking just one decisive blow. After a tense clash of steel, our hero executes a rapid strike. A massive splatter fills the screen as Almond drives a knife through the sniper's head. The system officially confirms the elimination, marking the end of the beef between the rookie and the professional troll. Back in the real world, Joohyuk screams in triumph at his dining table. He pumps his fists in a burst of energy, celebrating the fact that he is finally free from the watchful eyes of his toxic family. He realizes that decision-making is the true mark of a star, and Almond's ability to shine under such extreme pressure has solidified his potential. The community forums are already on fire, labeling the encounter as a clash between two geniuses. Inside the game, Almond sits on a crate, looking remarkably handsome and calm as he checks his rewards. He secured an astonishing 47 kills in total, and he casually dismisses the diamond-ranked sniper as an annoying mosquito. Because he won all of his placement matches and completed the specific bounty on Bubble Sniper, he collects a massive haul of mission prizes and donations. As coins rain down on his interface, a loud ding echoes through the capsule. A golden notification appears on the screen, revealing that his final placement has been calculated. Our protagonist turns toward the check rank button, ready to see if his legendary performance was enough to skip the lower tiers entirely. Our boy remains calm and professional for the camera, though the live chat is a chaotic mess of skepticism. Viewers are convinced he'll land in Gold 1 at best, noting that even the legendary pro JJP started there, and they insist a platinum placement is simply impossible for a fresh account. Sangyun voices his intent to check the results before finishing his remaining missions, but internally, he feels a spike of anxiety. He worries that if the system truly caps new players at gold, he will fail his high-stakes platinum mission. With a sharp click, he presses the button, triggering a brilliant explosion of light. A silver emblem featuring a centered star appears alongside a fancy banner, Platinum 3. This impossible result leaves our protagonist in a daze, staring wide-eyed as stars and light surround his character. The chat logs erupt in absolute shock, alternating between disbelief and laughter. While some skeptics immediately claim it must be a bug or messed-up rank manipulation, others are forced to admit that the feat is real. Sangyun scratches the back of his head, bewildered by the sound he uttered compared to the frenzy of his fans. He quickly pivots, crossing his arms to lean into his new persona as an elite platinum player. With a bright smile and a thumbs up, he accepts the platinum mission rewards, playfully telling the viewers who bet against him that they are being punished as he metaphorically runs away with their folders of blue rewards. Just as Sang-hyun prepares to end the stream, noting that the viewers are starting to catch on to his exit timing, a massive light eruptions across the screen. The streamer Miho, a popular creator, drops a huge 500,000 won donation, pleading with him to stay a bit longer. Our hero is visibly shaken, staring at the holographic interface with sweat on his face. He is more shocked by this massive donation than his own rank, marveling at the fact that streaming is such a hot field where people show this much support for an insignificant newcomer like himself. Touched by the gesture, his gaze sharpens. He resolves to keep his word and continue the grind toward Diamond for the sake of his fans. Meanwhile, in the real world, Kim Joo-hyuk leans back at his dining table, initially at ease now that the placement matches are over. His relaxation turns to concern as he scrolls through hit comments and all-tube shorts. He spots a growing thread accusing Sang-hyun of foul play, with users demanding he be reported. Realizing that the fairness of the game is being questioned, Joo-hyuk's expression turns serious. He decides to protect his friend's reputation and begins typing rapidly, resolving to nip this in the bud by contacting the developers. Inside the Battle Large management office, a middle-aged executive in a green sweater smiles at the inquiry email from Walnut, Sang-hyun's manager. He is impressed by the professional yet demanding tone behind the message. He explains to his subordinate that the rank isn't an error. It was determined by Lovey, an AI that analyzes playstyle. Because Almond used a restrictive weapon, maintained a high kill count, and engaged in minimal farming, the AI judged him worthy of Platinum 3. The executive realizes this controversy is good material, and instructs his team to prepare an email that doesn't just explain the rank, but proposes an official test to prove it to the world. Back in the game, Almond continues his dominant streak, securing 9 wins in a row and sweeping every bow-related mission. However, once he finally logs out, the physical toll is revealed. As the capsule opens with a hiss of steam, Sang-hyun pulls himself out, completely drenched in sweat and breathing heavily. Joo-hyuk is horrified by his friend's state and heads to the fridge to get a drink, only to find a dedicated small cooler packed with rows of Ultra Booster bottles. Seeing Sang-hyun chug the booster drink in silence, Joo-hyuk feels a wave of deep concern. He suggests Sang-hyun should model for a sports drink commercial to lighten the mood. But once the streamer heads to the shower, Joo-hyuk's smile vanishes. He inspects the capsule and finds the internal temperature is normal, leading him to realize that the issue isn't hardware, it's something happening to Sang-hyun himself. His investigation is interrupted by a new email from Fantasia. Joo-hyuk reads the response from the AI Lovey and discovers that the company is officially inviting Almond to an ad proposal and a public test to prove his platinum status. Life moves fast when you're a viral sensation, but for Yoo Sang-hyun, success comes with complicated logistics. Inside their apartment, Joo-hyuk holds up a tablet with a wide grin, showing an email from Fantasia, the tech giant behind the very VR system Sang-hyun uses. Joo-hyuk is ecstatic to announce they've received an advertisement proposal, but the news catches our hero off guard. Sang-hyun pauses his breakfast, chewing his cereal in a daze before gulping it down as he processes the reality of a corporate giant reaching out. Joo-hyuk explains that because Punk has already given their approval, they can move forward whenever Sang-hyun is ready. The deal involves testing a high-end simulator to prove his ranking, but our protagonist's expression darkens as he looks at the tablet. The ad requires a medical exam, and he quickly realizes this means the public will discover the truth about his permanent hand injury. Our boy clenches his fist on the table, feeling the weight of his secret. While he previously trusted the Punk director with this information, he is horrified by the prospect of it being broadcast to a mass audience. He sharply rejects Joo-hyuk's suggestion to simply ask the crew for privacy, admitting he cannot trust a production team to handle his trauma with care. The disagreement quickly turns into a shouting match. Joo-hyuk, frustrated and stressed, reminds Sang-hyun that his health is visibly failing every time he exits the capsule. He argues that Fantasia's renowned medical team is the perfect chance for a checkup, but our protagonist stubbornly insists he'll just go to a regular hospital. The tension peaks when Joo-hyuk asks if this hesitation is actually just a fear of his former corporate colleagues finding out about his condition. Sang-hyun slams the table with a loud crash, his gaze turning fierce and dark as he tells Joo-hyuk to watch his mouth. Stung by the conflict, Joo-hyuk storms out of the apartment, leaving a frustrated Sang-hyun alone to clench his trembling right hand in silence. To cool off, Joo-hyuk wanders the neighborhood and runs into Seo Jia struggling with a heavy trash bag. After helping her, he invites her to a breakfast of blood sausage soup. Jia is shocked when he also orders a bottle of soju, but she realizes from Joo-hyuk's dark mood that he's had a rough start to the day. As they drink, Joo-hyuk feels the weight of the morning's fight, though Jia notes that he looks like he's the one who needs the alcohol more than her. The conversation turns somber as Jia reflects on her own past office trauma. She notes that people who suppress their feelings without a word eventually implode, revealing that Sang-hyun was the one who taught her this. This makes Joo-hyuk realize that our hero likely understands the stakes of the ad. his intense reaction was simply a sign of how deep the trauma goes. Eventually, Jia's head spins from the alcohol and she collapses, only for Juhyuk to catch her just in time. By the time Juhyuk returns home, the atmosphere has shifted. He finds Sanghyun waiting with a new box of cereal he just bought, and despite being drunk, Juhyuk is stunned to hear that Sanghyun already contacted director Oh to book the filming for the very next day. Our hero looks at his hand with a determined face, acknowledging that facing his fear is just part of the job of being a streamer. Juhyuk is moved to tears by this growth and apologizes for getting heated earlier, though Sanghyun quickly tells him to stop being cringy. The mood lightens as Juhyuk mentions meeting Jia earlier and mocks how good she is at drinking. Sanghyun notes that she seems to have a deep backstory, which prompts Juhyuk to smirk and ask if our boy is interested in her. Sanghyun slams his soda can down, dismissing the idea, but as he looks away, a hazy silhouette of a woman from his past flickers through his mind. Meanwhile, the public reaction to the announcement is a tale of two worlds. Sanghyun posts a break notice on his forum, which is met with immediate suspicion from the hardcore gaming community. Toxic comments flood in, claiming the ranking is staged and calling Almond a nepo baby. However, director Oh is unfazed when they meet at the filming office the next day. He jokingly tells Juhyuk that their legal department is ready to sue the bastards who post hate, encouraging the manager to screenshot everything. He explains that while gamers are sensitive about ranks, the broader public on major sites is reacting with excitement. As the shoot begins, Sanghyun is whisked away to a mirror, where stylists marvel at his perfect skin and prepare his hair. Juhyuk watches with crossed arms, noting that today will determine if our boy is palatable to the massive mainstream audience. After a final hair check, Sanghyun is ready in his outfit, looking sharp enough for an award ceremony. He stares at his reflection with wide eyes, finally about to step onto the stage. A bright spotlight shines on the dissolution analyzer holographic screen, signaling that Almond is officially ready for the test that could change everything. The scene transitions to the studio interior, where the host, Yoo Hyeon, invites him to sit opposite her. During the final 30 seconds before going live, she leans in to remind him to stick to the rehearsal. Our hero looks at his cue card and realizes the show consists of a simple interview and a physical test to check for capsule abnormalities. After a nervous gulp from our protagonist, the clapperboard snaps shut to mark the start of the first take. Haeyeon begins the broadcast with high energy, framed by sparkles and flowers as she introduces the show's long history of breaking down famous guests through analysis. Because the program's content isn't fun unless the guest is famous, the live chat immediately begins to buzz. Viewers are shocked to see a small-time streamer like Almond on such a big show, questioning if he is actually famous enough to be there. Haeyeon ignores the noise and continues her introduction until a staff member in the wings holds up a cue card to let Almond know the camera is about to swing his way. When the camera cuts to him, our boy offers a calm smile that immediately causes the chat to explode over his handsome appearance. Haeyeon notes that the reactions are on fire and calls him an idol, but Almond awkwardly mentions he is around 30, which makes the label feel out of place. This honesty causes Haeyeon's expression to turn sharp as she scolds him for revealing his age during her interview intro. She eventually softens and asks if he is nervous, leading our hero to admit he didn't expect such a massive audience. Haeyeon blithely informs him that the current viewership is actually less than usual, leaving Almond looking dejected. Haeyeon winks at the camera and promises the audience that Almond's abilities will triple the viewership. When she tries to confirm a viewer increase with the director and hears there hasn't been one, she pouts and jokingly tells Almond he is the limit for his own viewers. Our hero watches her work with a flat expression, realizing that while he worked with acorn jelly before, this environment is different because the guest is treated more like a toy to play with. Despite the awkwardness, he nods vigorously when she asks to begin the interview. Behind the scenes, Juhyuk and director Oh watch from the observation area. The director praises Sanghyun's performance, while Juhyuk thanks him for his consideration regarding Sanghyun's personal history. Director Oh mentions that Juhyuk was the one who went around requesting such privacy, so it was the least they could do. Nearby, a different director smirks at the monitors, worried that the mysterious image is outdated and preferring to expose everything for entertainment. He views the upcoming physical test as potentially boring based on the stats, but he agrees to wait and see. On stage, Haeyeon and Almond settle into capsules. She teases him by asking how it feels to have his rank manipulation exposed, prompting a deadpan textbook reply from our protagonist about being nervous. As the lid slides shut, Haeyeon announces it is time to prove the abilities of the man who reached Platinum 3. A flash of light signals the transition into a virtual world where both spawn onto a stadium floor. Almond notices the sensory difference immediately, but Haeyeon tells him it's too early to be surprised. The digital landscape shifts into a hyper-realistic outdoor archery range modeled after an actual Olympic arena. Almond is stunned by the technical detailing, noting he can't tell the difference from the real world. Haeyeon explains that this ambitious work uses Fantasia's latest techniques, prompting Almond to look for his manager before remembering he is in VR. When he is told to choose a bow, he selects a Wingwin Oasis model and realizes the grip and stabilizer are indistinguishable from reality. Hyeon asks if it's his first time shooting a professional bow, but our hero remains silent and draws the weapon with perfect form. This posture leaves Hyeon in wide-eyed shock as she realizes his skill surpasses a typical pro. Almond looses an arrow that streaks through the sky and slams into the dead center of the bullseye. While the chat is impressed, Hyeon remains frozen with her mouth open. When she finally recovers, she stammers about the technical detailing of the ad, but internally she is panicking because that practice shot was too perfect. She forces a laugh and tells him he's pretty good, but the chat mocks her for the understatement. Hyeon winks at the viewers, asking if they want to see his real performance, only to be interrupted by the sound of the bowstring stretching again. Almond is already aiming. He releases a volley that sends 10 arrows into a tight group in the center of the target. In the control room, the director is sweating as he realizes all the arrows were shot within 1.2 seconds of each other, a feat that would challenge a gold medalist. The director questions how a mere streamer can have such abilities, while the chat demands an explanation for the lack of configurations or cheats. Almond looks at the target and asks if he should keep shooting, but a panicked Hyeon ends the bow test early, claiming there's no point anymore since it finished so fast. She giggles nervously and quickly moves to transition the broadcast to the next stage. The live broadcast takes a chaotic turn as the studio transition glitches, sending the viewer chat into a frenzy of mockery and disbelief. Many users label the stream a failure, while others suspect Almond's perfection in the previous test is a sign that he is a hidden professional. Behind the scenes, the marketing staff is in a state of visible distress. The hyper-realism ad strategy was designed to make even a skilled gamer fumble, so Almond's flawless performance has completely backfired on the brand's messaging. While Director Oh laughs at the marketer's frustration, Joo-hyuk watches the situation unfold with a satisfied smirk. He notes that the community forums are already erupting with debate. Some users accuse Fantasia of misleading marketing, while others are convinced our hero is a god among archers who simply bypass the system's difficulty. Joo-hyuk realizes that negative or positive, the attention is focused squarely on Sang-hyun. He understands that being too good is a much better problem to have than being boring, and he prepares to lean into the hype. The broadcast returns to the host, Yoo Hyeon, who tries to pivot from the previous marketing fail by introducing a new challenge. She reveals that the fun is just beginning as they transition to a notorious trial called Stay Alive. As mechanical launchers descend from the ceiling, the chat recognizes the challenge as the same one the legendary pro Jeonjappa once dominated. Because the visual style of this arena is more game-like and less realistic, our protagonist experiences a momentary mental stall. His loading expression becomes an instant meme for the viewers, though he quickly snaps back to attention. Sang-hyun admits the transition feels different, noting that the arena no longer mimics the real world. Haeun uses this to emphasize the difference between Fantasia's hyper-realistic spaces and standard gaming environments. When she asks how he feels about the upcoming trial, our boy doesn't hold back. Despite knowing the difficulty, he casually states that he thinks the test will be easy. This bold trash talk sends the chat into fits of laughter, especially when he accidentally admits he watched Jeonjappa's record-breaking run beforehand. Haeun tries to bait him into insulting the pro, and Sang-hyun bites the hook completely, declaring that he expects to beat Jeonjappa's score. The trial begins with a 5-second countdown that leads into a sudden surge of blue light. As soon as the lights flash, a spinning sword flies dangerously close to our hero's head, forcing him to flinch. He realizes the arena is designed to be unfair, launching projectiles the second his vision returns. 4 large launcher tubes begin firing energy beams and metal greatswords with massive impact. Our protagonist is forced into a desperate high-speed sprint across the glowing grid, maneuvering through a blur of speed lines to stay alive. While Sang-hyun slides under beams and leaps over gaps, Haeun watches from her high-angle observation deck, praising his resilience. She reveals Jeonjappa's legendary record of 30 minutes and 39 seconds, mocking the idea that our boy can even get close. However, the difficulty spikes as she triggers Phase 2 with a sharp click of a red button. Blue lightning strikes the floor, and the tiles beneath Sang-hyun begin to collapse into a void. The chat watches in terror as the floor disappears, but our hero finds a rhythm. He notices that the tiles vibrate with a slight tremor before they fall, allowing him to dodge by reading the arena's physical cues. This analytical approach shocks Haeun, who confirms that the formation is random and could not have been memorized. Sang-hyun continues to survive with a calm, determined face, jumping between crumbling platforms like a protagonist on a falling bridge. After 15 minutes, he reaches the top 1.2% of all users, but the weapons become increasingly brutal as massive circular saws and spiked iron ball enter the fray. Meanwhile, in the control room, 2 researchers monitor Sang-hyun's data with growing concern. They notice his concentration levels are reaching the same impossible heights as Jeonjappa's. The senior researcher notes that this level of full dive potential usually requires years of image training. Because Sang-hyun is in his 30s, they find it hard to believe he could have such high scores unless he has been training his mind for over a decade. This creates a logical paradox, as the technology hasn't even existed that long. They are left wondering why a young archer would have spent years practicing such intense mental focus before virtual reality was even invented. Back in the simulation, the final escalation arrives. Haeyeon announces the start of Phase 3, and the stadium is consumed by violent vertical rays of light. Blinding blue electrical discharges fill the room as jagged lightning strikes the center of the grid. Our protagonist stands in the dark void, his eyes wide as they reflect the surging power. He realizes that Phase 1 was about projectiles, and Phase 2 was about the floor, but Phase 3 is something entirely more lethal. As the lightning rains down, Almond lets out a gasp of panic, realizing he is now facing a storm of pure electricity. Our boy barely has time to process the danger before he pivots, shoes squeaking against the tiles as he narrowly avoids a bright flash of electricity. Agile enough to dodge the strikes, our hero lands in a low crouch. This display of reflexes sends the stream chat into a total frenzy. Viewers are baffled by how anyone could dodge lightning, with some jokingly asking if our protagonist is a regressor from a fantasy novel. Instead of being paralyzed by the chaos, our hero remains remarkably observant. He realizes subtle cues exist in the environment, noting a slight static in the air and a faint vibration in the tiles before the lightning strikes. Reading these signs, he continues to check his chat and interact with his audience even while sprinting across the lethal grid. This level of multitasking leaves the viewers in awe, as he is the first streamer to maintain a conversation during the legendary Stay Alive trial. As he looks upward, a high-pitched sound alerts him to the ceiling tubes vibrating. Our protagonist realizes that Fantasia's high-end equipment provides telegraphs for every attack, making the incoming rain of swords manageable for someone with his level of focus. However, the arena punishes overconfidence. As Almond looks toward the floor, a hidden spring triggers with a sharp click, launching our boy high into the air. This sudden displacement leaves the audience howling with laughter, but the humor quickly turns to tension. The host, Yoo Haeyeon, notes that our guy is now trapped in midair where he cannot move freely. At the 18-minute mark, the game escalates the difficulty by launching a flurry of swords directly at his falling body. To the shock of everyone watching, the archer begins contorting his frame in midair, executing a high-speed aerial twist that allows the blades to whistle past him harmlessly. Haeyeon is so stunned by his grace that she decides to manually increase the difficulty, sending more throwing blades to converge on him simultaneously. In a move that defies logic, our hero reaches out and snatches a passing sword by the hilt mid-fall. With eyes glowing with determination, he spins in the air and uses the captured weapon to deflect the incoming projectiles in a blur of light. Our protagonist lands with a heavy impact, releasing a massive burst of energy that clears the remaining weapons from his path. While he exhales a sigh of relief, the perspective shifts behind the scenes to manager Joo-hyuk and a senior researcher. The researcher is baffled by Almond's biological data, specifically his VNS numbers, explaining that he shows the neural signatures of someone who has performed high-intensity image training for 10 years without a break, a feat that is physically and mentally impossible for a normal office worker. This revelation strikes Joo-hyuk like a bolt of lightning. He finally understands why Sang-hyun showed such extraordinary focus and natural skill from the very first moment he stepped into a capsule. Our manager realizes that even after the accident that shattered his right arm, Sang-hyun never gave up on his dream. For 10 years within the dark tunnel of his own despair, our hero was practicing archery in his mind every single day. In his dreams, he was still the champion, and that decade of mental obsession has transformed him into the genius the world is seeing now. Joo-hyuk's eyes fill with tears of empathy as he realizes that the almond on screen is the result of a gem that refused to stop shining in the darkness. As the clock surpasses 30 minutes, our boy is officially on the verge of breaking Jonjapa's world record. The crowd is in a state of absolute disbelief, wondering how a newbie could possibly surpass a legendary pro. However, the triumph is overshadowed by a critical emergency in the control room. The junior researcher discovers that Almond's synchronization levels have reached a terrifying 97%. Using a new prototype capsule without safety limits, the system isn't ejecting him. The senior researcher pales, realizing that reaching 85% is dangerous, but 97% is life-threatening. She sprints toward the arena to stop the test immediately, fearing that if the connection isn't severed, our hero might fully synchronize with his virtual avatar and lose his connection to reality forever. In the high-intensity virtual arena of the Stay Alive test, Almond is pushed to his absolute physical and mental limits. Since the difficulty has reached its peak, he is forced to perform a series of mechanical evasive maneuvers, dodging a relentless barrage of projectiles and energy beams with surgical precision. As the countdown hits the final 5 seconds, the arena launchers release an overwhelming onslaught of spears and blades. Our hero manages to find a gap in the chaos, He leaps through the air and snatches a heavy spear by its shaft, immediately using the momentum to pivot into a low crouch. This quick thinking allows him to use the captured weapon as a staff to deflect incoming knives, creating a flurry of sparks as metal clashes against metal. Despite the floor collapsing beneath his feet, the archer performs an acrobatic somersault to clear the space around him, preparing for the final wave of cannonballs. As the final attack descends, a terrifying glitch occurs. Almond's right hand begins to flicker with digital static and tremble uncontrollably. Due to this sudden neurological interference, he is unable to complete his planned counterstrike. A white light consumes the arena, and the screen fades to a dark "Game Over" interface. In the real-world studio, Director Oh and Ju-hyuk are in a state of absolute panic, screaming for the engineering team to open the capsule immediately. A female researcher from the engineering team rushes in to check on our boy's condition, but the staff is distracted by the data on the monitors. A technician, staring in disbelief, reveals that the final record is a perfect tie with the legendary pro, Jeonjapa. The director, refusing to believe it, demands a closer look at the decimal places. Even at the 12th decimal place, the scores are an identical match down to the last digit, an outcome that leaves the director completely baffled. When the capsule finally hisses open, Almond is found slumped over the side, drenched in sweat and panting. As he is rushed to the medical bay, he experiences a hazy moment of confusion, briefly mistaking the show host, Hyeon, for a woman from his past named Soyeon. Once he is stabilized in a private room, the medical specialist, Dr. Song Hana, reviews his charts. While Ju-hyuk is relieved that there are no immediate physical abnormalities, the doctor asks to speak with Sang-hyun in private to discuss a much more serious underlying issue. Inside the consultation office, Song Hana reveals the truth that our hero has long suspected. The persistent issue with his right hand isn't physical, it's neurological. Since the capsule interfaces directly with the brain, other areas of Sang-hyun's mind have been working overtime to move his hand for him in virtual reality. This explains why he experiences extreme exhaustion. His brain is suffering from a massive neural overload because his healthy neurons are performing the tasks of the damaged ones. Song Hana warns him that while he is fine for now, long-term use of the capsule could lead to unpredictable consequences. This leaves our protagonist in a difficult position, as he has already promised his fans he would reach the diamond rank. Seeing his resolve, the doctor offers a unique proposal. She will treat him for free if he allows her to collect data on his unique brain activity for her research, as she has never seen this phenomenon before. Realizing he needs expert help to continue his career, Sang-hyun quickly agrees. As he leaves the office, the weight of the medical warning is momentarily eclipsed by his competitive spirit. He finds Ju-hyuk waiting anxiously, but instead of discussing his health, our boy is dejected because he failed to beat Jeonjapa's record by a fraction of a second. This leads to a comedic shouting match between the two, with Ju-hyuk furious that Sang-hyun is prioritizing a score over his own life. Their bickering is interrupted by a nervous staff member who reveals a shocking fact. The stream is still ongoing, and Almond is needed back on stage immediately. Almond looks completely bewildered, but Ju-hyuk places a reassuring hand on his shoulder and confirms the broadcast is still ongoing. Our protagonist wonders if anyone is still watching after his hour-long absence, but Ju-hyuk leads him back with a confident smile, hinting that the audience size is significant. Walking toward the closed double doors of the stage, Almond's mind races. He recalls the doctor mentioning a perfect tie with the legend Jeonjapa. Stepping into the bright studio lights, a banner reveals a shocking truth. He has officially surpassed a VNS score of 300 for the first time in history. Our boy stands frozen in the spotlight, trying to process breaking a world record. While Ju-hyuk smirks from the sidelines, enjoying his friend's visible shock, Almond leans over and asks a simple question about what VNS is. Ju-hyuk reacts with total disbelief, baffled that a world-class player doesn't know a concept basic to most gamers. Our hero simply shakes his head, admitting his ignorance, which forces Ju-hyuk to realize that his guy really is a blank slate. Because the show must go on, Ju-hyuk pushes him toward the stage, jokingly telling him that the host will explain everything. As they approach the stage, Almond questions why Ju-hyuk calls the host Nuna when she looks younger than them, leading to a frantic, red-faced excuse from the manager. The host, Yoo Hae-on, spots them and enthusiastically announces Almond's return to the long-waiting audience. Our hero looks utterly confused as he is ushered into his seat, while the live chat explodes with excitement, eager to see the man who just shook the gaming hierarchy. Hyeon tries to maintain her high energy, asking how he feels after his collapse, but Almond's flat, tired response makes the viewers laugh. They realize he has no idea how to match her idol-like intensity. When she officially congratulates him on the world record VNS score, confetti falls, but our hero interrupts the celebration with his recurring question about VNS. Haeon freezes in total shock, her professional persona momentarily breaking as she realizes he truly doesn't know. The chat erupts, convinced this must be a scripted comedy bit. Hyeon reflects on the fact that Almond has only been streaming for 3 weeks, making it even more terrifying that he broke a legendary record without knowing the metrics. To clear the air, she uses a digital graphic to explain that VNS is essentially a measure of a player's virtual reality IQ, or APM. She reveals that while Jonjapa held the previous record, Almond's performance just shattered it. Instead of being thrilled, our protagonist remains meticulous. He questions if the record is official, noting that Fantasia's machines and ambiguous standards might make it an unofficial first place. This cold logic leaves Heian laughing nervously. When she asks how he feels about beating a legend, Almond looks solemn and admits it is a shame. The studio is stunned by this response. Almond explains that an unofficial record is meaningless to him, comparing it to a mother simply thinking her son is number one. While the director and Joo Hyuk laugh at his perfectionism from the control room, our boy clarifies that his real sadness comes from the game itself. Because the match ended in a tie, he feels he failed to actually win when the victory was right in front of him. Heian watches him with intrigued eyes, noticing that he doesn't seem happy, he seems angry. She realizes that while many streamers have attempted this challenge, she has never seen anyone this intensely competitive. Touched by his sincerity, she offers her personal opinion. She believes Almond will eventually become a greater player than Jonjapa. The chat goes wild over this bait question, but Almond looks directly into the camera with a confident smile and agrees that he will. This bold statement sends the viewers into a frenzy. To wrap up the interview, Heian asks if he'll return to the show, but Almond flatly declines to talk about the VNS record anymore. He compares people obsessing over VNS scores after a tie to soccer fans who brag about ball possession even though their team lost the match. Heian laughs and quickly closes the show, thanking the subscribers as the director and Joo Hyuk share a final laugh at the monitor. The scene fades into a starry sky as the forums begin to teem with debate over Almond's final blunt comparison, proving that the archer has truly arrived on the world stage. Following the massive success of the recent broadcast, Joo Hyuk sits at his laptop watching a recording of the Dissolution Analyzer interview. On screen, the virtual version of himself remains stoic, claiming the tie with the world's number one was a shame and comparing the situation to soccer fans who brag about ball possession even when their team loses. Joo Hyuk clutches a blue can of beer and laughs hysterically as he mocks his friend for having such a sharp tongue. He calls the lines absolute gems, forcing our protagonist to lie flat on the sofa in a state of deep embarrassment. With his face turning bright red, Sang-hyun clutches his phone to his chest and begs his friend to shut up. As he thinks, the gravity of his own bold interview comments begins to weigh on him. He panics internally, wondering how a newbie like him had the audacity to get angry over a tie with Jonjapa, screaming in distress, wishing he could literally grab his own words and pull them back into his mouth. Eventually, Sang-hyun rubs his forehead and admits he got carried away by the heat of the moment. He realizes that when he heard the phrase world record, his instincts unknowingly switched back to the archery genius persona of his youth, the competitive version of himself that existed solely to break records and win at any cost. Joo Hyuk continues to loop the video in the kitchen, joking that it's a killer line, and praising Sang-hyun for at least having the rationality not to mention a specific national team by name. Despite the teasing, our hero scrolls through his phone and feels a wave of relief. To his surprise, the Almond's Comments collection is filled with glowing fan reviews rather than the criticism he expected. The audience finds him incredibly likable precisely because he stayed objective. Most newcomers would have bragged about beating a Legends VNS score, but Almond's refusal to be satisfied with anything less than a win proved he is the truest of chaos, a genuine, unfiltered personality. Sang-hyun realizes that the honesty that was once a bane in his corporate life has finally become a boon in the streaming world. The next day, the almond fever reaches a boiling point. Latest text flashes over web search bars as Sang-hyun discovers he is officially a trending topic, alongside terms like VNS definition and Jonjapa. He sits at his table eating, looking dizzy and shocked that he has reached the live search bar of a major portal. His phone begins to vibrate intensely, signaling a message from the superstar streamer Acorn Jelly. The veteran praises his recent performance, and Sang-hyun smiles softly as he types back a humble thank you. Acorn Jelly laughs off the modesty, warning him not to go around making soccer analogies too often before inviting him out for a drink. The peaceful morning is interrupted when Joo Hyuk sneaks up on him, scaring the protagonist. While Sang-hyun tells him to make some noise when he moves, Joo Hyuk points to the phone, which is now vibrating like crazy with sound effects. Sang-hyun assumes it's a hack or a loan scam, but upon checking the screen, his eyes widen in total disbelief. The device is flooded with incoming messages from fashion companies, game developers, and major food brands like Golden Barbecue Chicken. These are all legitimate sponsorship and advertisement requests. Sang-hyun is confused why people are working so early in the morning, which prompts Joo Hyuk to remind him that marketing departments, like the seniors at their old job, practically live at their desks. Joo Hyuk sits down to eat, explaining that these brands are trying to buy in while Almond's stock price is still relatively low. Our protagonist is fascinated to learn that Juhyuk has actually been refusing dozens of offers from smaller, unknown brands. Despite needing the money, Juhyuk has been protecting Sang-hyun's image, refusing to sign with weird companies that might ruin his long-term value. This show of faith touches Sang-hyun, as he realizes his manager is looking at the big picture rather than a quick payday. Meanwhile, at a nearby restaurant, the atmosphere is electric. Director Oh from Punk is shown laughing loudly, celebrating with his colleagues over a midday company meal. His coworkers admit they were initially suspicious when he brought in a nobody, even joking that they thought Almond was his hidden nephew. Now they are in awe of Director Oh's eye for talent, as Almond is already being compared to the greatest players in the industry. While some workers cry tears of joy over finally having a partnered streamer on par with Jeonjapa, Director Oh takes a satisfied drink. He feels that all his hard work has finally become worthwhile. The celebratory mood shifts back to the apartment as Sung-hyun prepares to enter his gaming capsule. Juhyuk's previous encouragement rings in his ears, reminding him that the only thing that matters now is the climb to Diamond. Inside the capsule, our hero clenches his fist and snaps his eyes open. He resolves to stay calm and refuse to let the rising viewer counts distract him from his gameplay. Back at the restaurant, Director O is startled by a notification that Almond has begun streaming at 3 p.m. He is shocked that our boy is starting in the middle of the day and rushes to a hallway to watch. He knows how quickly popularity can vanish in this volatile market, so he begins to get greedy, praying for the stream to surpass 6,000 or even 7,000 viewers. Suddenly, Director O rushes back into the dining room, screaming at his coworkers to abandon their plans for a second round of drinks. He thrusts his phone forward with an expression of pure, explosive shock, ordering everyone to look at the live stream immediately.